this is a big part of the true nature of children in that moment.
Yeah.
Curious, inquisitive, questioning, probing, searching,
It was
and
so
inquiring.
probing him.
He was probing physically. He was like, squish, squish, squish.
Was like really seeing your eyeball, like
So that just like is showing like how far removed Peter Banning, who was once Peter Pan, now is. You know, like it's just really honing in that this like character is so far removed from that childhood self that he once was. Like
totally.
Yeah.
He goes for that company, and if there's any resistance, Dad goes in there and he blows them out of the water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you just see her slowly look up.
So
Peter, you've become a pirate.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like such a beautiful definition of like what we have become in real life. It's a great symbolism.
What Peter Banning has grown up to be, just somebody who's so focused on his work, his career,
his status,
money,
success,
denying all of his pain, all of his fears, just like living in it pretty much. So he's definitely become a pirate. Such a beautiful point to the movie that life is about. All right, hi babe.
Hello, my darling.
How are you going?
It's been a busy day, eh?
Totally. So here we are back for another episode of God's Whispers in Film podcast.
Finally,
I know. It's been a while. So shall we get straight into, I guess, reading out the intro and stuff like that?
Yes, go for it, babe.
All right. So in this podcast episode, we're going to be exploring the movie Hook, Finding Our Childhood Self, which is the title of this video. So in this episode, we'll explore some of God's whispers in the iconic film Hook about reconnecting with the instinctual and beautiful qualities of our real self that God gave us and we were born with, that were more prominent in our childhood compared to our adult life, through the main character Peter Banning's journey to rediscovering who he actually is. Peter Pan. So, let's read out the synopsis for everyone. So when his young children are abducted by his old nemesis, Captain Hook, played by Dustin Hoffman, middle-aged lawyer Peter Banning, Robin Williams, returns to Neverland to liberate them. He gets assistance from Tinkerbell and the Lost Boys to fight against his old enemy. So I assume that everyone has seen the film. Well, most people, not everyone. I assume most people would have seen the film.
The new generation probably hasn't.
Yeah, but I assume, maybe people from our generation have seen the film. But if anyone hasn't seen the film, we just encourage everyone to go and check it out, because we're going to be like talking basically a lot about the film and giving away all the spoilers, I suppose.
And plus, it's also actually really fun to watch.
Yeah,
It really does bring some like playfulness back into your life.
Exactly. So, we love this film. Like, obviously, we watched it a few times together now, and it's such a classic. And I don't know, just that era of filmmaking as well, like with all the real sets and things like that, just makes it more magical. So we're going to follow Peter's journey. But to follow Peter's journey to reconnecting with who he is, we will first start with where he is at now and what it looks like to lose touch with our true selves and the problem it causes in our lives, which we refer to as whisper number 1, the adult facade. We will also include the exploration of the pirate's character and what it symbolizes in regards to the facade. And in whisper number 2, we'll discuss how the movie shows some of the beautiful qualities of the real self, which is our soul, the childlike wonder we often bury under the weight of adulthood, and what it looks like, and what Peter's journey is to rediscover his real self. And then finally, whisper number 3, we are going to explore the process of breaking down the adult facade. which is, going to be a bit tricky, but we'll do our best, and whether or not the film captured this well through Peter's journey. So,
that one, yeah.
Yes. We're going to be talking about things, I guess, in this film, just for our audience, that we're still currently working on. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
You know, the adult facade is something we're still working through. You know, there's areas in our life where we're still a lot in our facade. So we're going to basically give some references to, you know, check out some source materials with Divine Truth along the way for people to get more of a comprehensive understanding, because we're probably not the best to...
We're not here to explain that stuff.
We're
just
not
here to go,
explain...
I can see that and I can see that.
We're not here to teach that stuff. We're here to just like kind of show how we see it in the film.
That's right.
Perhaps, yeah. So whether you're revisiting the film or discovering it for the first time, we hope you enjoy this conversation and reflect on what it means to reconnect with our real selves that God created us to be. Cool. So now we're done with the introduction. We're going to go straight into, I guess, the key whispers, which I mentioned was the adult facade, which is whisper number one.
Number one, yep.
Yep. So first, to give people context, though, what we mean by the adult facade, we are going to, I guess, just share a little bit about what we've learned purely from an intellectual perspective right now. Some of it's soul-based that we, you know, because
can feel a little bit.
We can feel a little bit because, you know, like I said, we haven't worked through all of our facade, but there are some parts where we have and some parts where we haven't. So, for a more comprehensive understanding, though, go to Divine Truth, because I'm just going to be sharing what they have taught us, right? So Jesus explains how the choice to refuse to feel terror and to be emotionally overwhelmed by pain creates a facade that causes more sin and pain, which was developed in our childhood by parents and society that teach the child how to suppress emotion, that it is dangerous to feel emotion, and use abusive techniques to suppress or prevent the child's emotion, and the techniques that we develop, maintain, and use to deny pain. So, he's given an amazing description of some of the, I guess, qualities or attributes of the facade self. So what does the facade self look like, and what does it like act like, I suppose? And every adult and person pretty much here in the world has a facade right now. So my facade self loves addiction, compulsion, resistance, coercion, and manipulation. Loves cruelty, nastiness, meanness, arrogance, condescension, and superiority. Is insensitive, unaware, pretending, false, closed, controlled, and untrusting. Is dishonest, untruthful, insincere, invasive, unemotional, and illogical. Is immovable, imprudent, thoughtless, irrational, reckless, irresponsible, and careless. My facade self is the main cause of my choice towards unloving, sinful actions. So why is this an issue, and why is having a facade a problem? According to Divine Truth, my denial of pain is unloving and causes more sin and pain. The denial of all pain, physical or emotional, is a lack of love of self, others, and God. Physical pain is the result of the suppression of emotional pain. So suppressing emotional pain causes sickness, physical illness, physical pain, things like that. The denial of pain creates motivations to create pain for others. So we've heard the saying, hurt people, hurt others. The denial of pain is a rejection of how God created us to live. So it goes against our true nature, the qualities of our soul to be feeling and sensing. And suppressing pain causes a general suppression of all emotion. So even if you just suppress like one thing, one emotion, one painful emotion, and I've experienced this myself, like suppressing my pain, I ended up pretty much numb in my life where I couldn't feel anything, couldn't feel happiness, couldn't feel sadness, nothing. So you end up just being empty, like you have this feeling of emptiness. So that's something that I definitely experienced in my life. Okay, so now that we've kind of given a bit of context to what we mean by the adult facade, we're going to go into, I guess, how this looks like. You know, how does the adult facade look like in the main character's journey, and what problems is it causing him?
Sure.
Which I'm going to hand it over to you to go for gold.
Well, also in terms of when you were saying what you were saying, I thought it was really interesting because a lot of us would go, oh, yeah, but I don't like when people are cruel and nasty and this and that. And we don't really realize that, you know, or I don't like that people are dishonest or insincere or, you know, unemotional or whatever. And the truth is, like, all of us have done it in some form. Do you know what
judge
I mean? We're
in
judging
others what we do ourselves.
Yeah. Or we're hurt by the thing that hurts us from, I don't like that person did that to me and now I'm hurt by it. So then I hate if anyone does it, you know, because you're not really processing. Do you know, does that make sense?
Say that again.
So like, for example, like, your dad doesn't keep his promise. So now promises mean a lot to you. So if someone breaks it, like it is like the rage that you have in it is because it's like your dad broke your heart by breaking promises all the time.
And now you're addicted. You need to,
you know, everyone needs to keep their promise. And if they change their mind, it's like a broken promise. It's like, no, I just changed my mind. Like, but that's a broken promise. You know what I mean?
It's almost like this addiction gets created to that people must like do a certain thing, like for you to feel okay. Yeah.
Like,
gotcha.
You know, if someone says, "Oh, I'll do the dishes in the morning," you know, and then they change their mind, but you promised you'd do the dishes in the morning,
and you get angry.
You know, like because deep, it's like you're still holding on to dad broke his promise, and now everyone in the world breaks their promise. You know, That's my example.
Gotcha.
Of like something small because people are thinking big stuff and they're not thinking of the little ones. I thought that was a good little one because we're going to talk about promises in a second. That's what I thought I'll bring.
And it could be the opposite where you had everything given to you in the world like when you were little and now you have that addiction, and so when someone maybe doesn't keep their promise or doesn't, you know what I mean, give you everything that you want,
you throw a
there's
tantrum.
that opposite. You throw a tantrum. So
okay, so in relation to adult facade and the film, we'll start off with Peter Banning, right?
Yeah.
So the one
in
that's
the ordinary world.
Played by Robin Williams, and he's in his ordinary world. So the everyday life of Peter Manning now as an adult.
Yeah.
Right? And so what we open up with him at least going to his daughter's play.
Yes.
Right?
It starts out like that, yeah.
But then even in the middle of his daughter's play, he gets a phone call from his boss. And so he's like not even listening to the play. He's listening to his boss on the phone.
Yeah.
And then his wife says, "You're missing it."
Yeah.
You know, that's a little thing because we're going to talk about how she says that a few times and then she addresses him, right?
Yeah.
And so he's missing his children's thing. He's focused on success. He's, you know, the stereotypical parent of I got to work.
Basically a workaholic.
A workaholic.
Yeah.
Perfect wording. Yep. And so he organizes, his boss wants him to go into the office for one last thing. And so he doesn't want to do it tomorrow because he's got his kid's baseball game. And Jack, his little son's like, "But my game's tomorrow," you know? And he's like, "I will make it a quick way. Oh, my word is my bond." Here we go, the promise.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
My word is my bond.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so the kid's going, okay, if Dad's promised, his word means a lot. Like, he's going to keep his promise. He's coming.
Yeah.
So the kid has that trust, you know, of like, Dad's going to do it.
Yeah.
I trust him, you know?
Yeah, which is a beautiful quality of children that are more very trusting with information that they receive, you know?
That's right. Right? Yeah. So he trusted his dad there wholeheartedly. All right, you're going to be there. Okay, cool. The next day comes, right? And do you want to explain a little bit on how the dad's like at work and then misses the baseball?
You can do it.
Okay. So
Keep going, Bob.
And so then we got the dad playing, phone thingy with like as if it's like a game, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like adult games,
Yeah.
Like we think that we are still playful. Look, it's like no.
They're playing like basically for people like in the film, they're playing a game of who can answer the phone the fastest.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. It's funny.
And they do it in like a Wild Wild West standoff, like
yeah.
kind of thing. And I got it first, that kind of thing. And he's like, gotta
and that's
fly.
in juxtaposition to his son actually now playing baseball during this time frame. His son is off playing baseball.
Yeah, and he asked someone to go record his son's game
because he's not there
he's
yet.
going to miss a little bit of it, but he ends up missing the whole thing. But in the cutaways, the wife's like, "Where's your father?" And the other kid, Maggie, the other daughter, his daughter, goes, "Oh, don't worry, Dad will be here." It's just the trust factor of children, right? He'll be here, don't worry.
Yeah.
Then the recording comes, and he's like, she goes, "Oh, where is Daddy?"
Yeah.
So even the kids realizing, hold on, Dad's not going to make it,
Yeah.
And then the mum says it again. He's missing it,
Yeah.
And I think it was well written, the whole missing it, because so many adults miss their children's childhood because they're stuck in their work life, their status life, it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to have parents that are obsessed with work to still miss your child's everything. Do you know what I mean? My dad didn't really have anything going on, and he didn't come to almost anything I did. Do you know what I mean? And it's just because he's so in his own little bubble, and so people have parents that are just in their bubble, and they just, and they miss it. They miss the magic of having a child. Like, the child's there to reflect so much stuff to you, which we'll talk about when we get to the airplane section, right? So anyway, Peter's then going, gotta fly, and then he's like,
saying goodbye to his workmates.
Saying goodbye to his workmates, and then he's like, his fear of flying comes through, where he's like, oh, but what if it's time for the pilot to go?
Wait, we skipped ahead.
Oh, sorry.
He's left his work, and he gets to the baseball game, and no one is there. So
no, he's leaving in the lift. That's what I'm up to.
Oh, you're leaving in the lift. Sorry, my bad.
So he's in the lift.
I thought you were in the airplane already.
Well, if it's your time to go, it's your time to go. So he's like, the adult self where we're like, oh, I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to like, like if it's time to go, it's time to go. Like, I'm not going to be scared,
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
Then,
that's funny.
that instead of really just feeling I'm scared,
Yeah,
and then
denying his fears.
And then they said something about like, don't let your wings something. And then he goes, oh, but what if it's time for the pilot to go? And then everyone goes, oh my God, you and your like fear.
So they're condescending to his fear.
Yeah, exactly. So it's
they're judging his fear.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Right?
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we forgot our light.
Oh no.
Let's put it on.
Put it on.
Oh, we forgot our other lights. Are we going to put this one on too?
Go on. Now that we can just do a cut.
It.
Everyone knows that it's going to have a cut here. Jump in.
Oh.
And we're back. Okay. So he's now leaving the lift, right? He's all in fear, which is really funny actually, because his character is in a lot of fear throughout this whole ordinary world. Shebang.
So much
which
fear.
I'll talk more as we go to each scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then he leaves and he's running up the hill because he's made it to the diamond field of baseball, runs up the hill and sees that everyone's... So he didn't just miss it. Like, everyone's gone. Even the cleaners that clean after everyone, they're gone. Like, it's like that far gone.
He's missed it by hours.
Right?
Yeah.
And he just goes...
and then he gets another phone call from work.
Right?
Yeah.
And so now, like, they're about to leave for the airplane. No, they do. It cuts to the airplane, right? Yes. And he's in terror. He's in the turbulence.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the daughter's just jumping around. Like, she's totally fine in the airplane, not scared, fearless. Just shows the juxtaposition of children and adults.
Yeah.
Right? We're stuck in our fear and children are fearless.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so she's there and daddy.
They're not fearless, but they have way less fear.
It's like they're not conscious of fear until you make them conscious of something to be fearful full of.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. In some ways.
From my observation.
Yeah.
Right? So like for example,
but sometimes they can be very much in their fear as well, but they're less resistant to feeling their fear. You know what I mean? Like children can get very scared, but they just automatically will feel it, you know? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, whereas adults tend to like him.
Hold it in.
Yeah, hold it in. You know?
I'm gonna be fine. Oh, just hold on to. I'm gonna hold on. My
living
dear
in the
life,
fear.
like, you know?
Living in the fear, which is a big part of the adult facade.
Yeah. And then you've got the juxtaposition of the daughter just going, "Hi, daddy, look, this is what Jack drew, and this is the airplane, and the airplane's crashing, and mummy's got." That's mommy, and that's this, and that's Jack, and that's me, and that's you. And he's like, "Where's my parachute? You don't have one." You know, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the wife then explains like to him, you know, are you going to talk to your son? Like your son's upset with you. You didn't make it to the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, like almost like brushing it off as if his life depends on like him sitting at that seat, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, get over there and talk to your son. Right? Oh, where's my parachute, Jack? When he sits there. All right.
Yeah.
And he goes, take a wild guess. So now the kid's showing projection of anger. I'm angry at you, Dad.
Yeah.
Like, you disappointed me.
Yeah.
And he's playing with a baseball. And he's like, stop playing with the baseball because you're going to break something, right? And he's like, you're scared you're going to get sucked out, aren't you? Like, it's fine. The what do you call the window?
Yeah.
Is double layered. You can't break it. He starts hitting it.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And I love this part because it shows a child testing the adult in his fear. Because that's what children do, right?
Yeah.
They're there to address your fears and then mirror it so then you can feel it. So you can address it. So it can trigger you.
Yeah, exactly. You know? And they don't know that they're doing that.
They don't know. They're just naturally doing it. So he's like, you can't be scared of it. Bang, 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 bang. He's like, stop doing that. Like, you know.
Takes the baseball bat off him.
Takes the baseball.
The baseball, yeah.
And then Jack hits the top of the thing and then the thing falls, whatever, because he goes, my word is my bond. And he's like, yeah, junk bond, right? Anyway, basically, then he loses it, Peter, and says, when are you going to grow up? And he goes, stop acting like a child. And then he's like, I am a child? Like,
yeah.
And then he goes, grow up, you know?
Yeah.
And then we cut again.
So that just like is showing like how far removed Peter Banning, who was once Peter Pan, now is. You know, like it's just really honing in that this like character is so far removed from that childhood self that he once was. Like
totally.
Yeah.
But also he grabs a thing and he's like looking around. You know, at the rest of the people on the plane.
Oh, Peter. Yeah. So he's like he's even conscious of...
and that's the thing that with our adult facade. We're conscious of what other people think
of us. Yeah.
We think that we're going to get judged. We think we are getting judged. We probably are getting judged because everyone else has their own
But we
facade
care about it.
We care about it.
We don't want to be judged.
We want to have status. We want to look like good parents.
We want to look like we've got our shit together.
You know, all that kind of stuff, right? All said in this.
Yeah,
you know, like it was just like a look.
Just a look.
You know? And then to further emphasize, Steven Spielberg is so good at this, further emphasize fear and this adulthoodness of parents just being parents, which is like Jack and everyone arrive in England. He's chewing on gum. Don't chew on gum. You're gonna choke. Projects the child he's gonna choke.
Projects the fear onto his child
that he's gonna choke,
which is what a lot of parents do.
Right?
They're always afraid of their children dying or something happening to them.
Yeah. So he's projecting his fear that Jack's gonna choke. So he tells him to spit out your gum. Right? Jack then doesn't. So Jack doesn't take it out, goes onto the brick railing that they have, British people have, like that goes up to their house in the terrace thing.
Yeah.
And it's all got snow on it. He goes on there to like try to climb it and he goes, get down from there, you're going to break your neck. you know, like
Another
fear, right?
Yeah.
Then he gets him and he pulls him off and he gets to the thing and then he's dusting them off. Now, remember, England is the land of manners, like be polite,
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
More
Anyway,
of the facade.
the guy opens the door and then closes the door in their face and then Jack's laughing and as he's laughing, he then chokes on his gum and then the dad
Oh
has
my
to like,
gosh. I didn't notice all these little moments. That's cool.
and he has to hit him to get the gum out,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And then
so his fears came true.
his fear came true
Which is what
because
happens because he didn't feel it. He didn't acknowledge it. He's just projecting on the child. And that's always happens in real life. Hey, whatever you project on the child usually ends up happening.
I know. I love how I can say it and then you know exactly where or like what I'm
Yeah.
trying to like bring out. I love it. Anyway, and so then Liza opens it and she starts screaming, oh, because they've arrived and stuff. Cut to the top, like when they've arrived and we get to Maggie. Sorry, not Maggie. Her name was Maggie Smith in real life. What's her name in the thing? Wendy. Granny Wendy. Right?
Wendy. Yeah.
And she goes, hello, boy. Anyway. And then she explains to the kids that they must stop growing up when they're in this house and da-da-da-da.
Yeah, that's a really big point. She's like, in this house, there's no growing up.
Stop this instant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was magical because when Jack...
And she goes, and you too, Peter? Yeah.
And he's like, too late or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Very, so negative, pessimistic,
Yeah.
And then Jack explains to her, she goes, so what are you guys up to? And then Jack then explains in a childlike way what his dad does.
For a living.
I
know. I love that moment. Yeah.
Explain it. Because I know
well, he's just like basically describing what he does for a living, basically describing him as a pirate. You know what I mean? He's like, he comes in and he blows them out of the water and I can't remember all of his exact words, but the way that he described Peter was exactly like what the pirates do, and what they're like.
He goes for that company, and if there's any resistance, Dad goes in there and he blows them out of the water.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you just see her slowly look up.
So,
Peter, you've become a pirate.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like such a beautiful definition of like what we have become in real life. It's a great symbolism. Like, I don't know if I say this part here now or later about the pirates, but
if you want to, basically, just in a nutshell, I've written like a few things here.
Yeah.
About what the pirate represents. Like, so if you want me to just read that out.
Sure, if it's already there.
Yeah, we can go into more the pirate stuff when we get to it. But basically, in the movie, the pirates represent the opposite to the young Peter Pan. So they embody everything that the grown-up Peter Pan has become, lost, disconnected from their true selves, and trapped in a life of fear. They're driven by fear of death, fear of change, fear of truly living, and they've forgotten what it means to live with joy and wonder. So their lives revolve around chasing after money, power, and the illusion of control. They hold on to material possessions and worldly achievements as if they'll somehow feel powerful.
And status as well. They chase status as well. Because pirates are all about status as well. I must have the world will remember me as the most notorious or infamous pirate that ever existed in the 7 seas, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much
what
Peter now.
Banning has grown up to be, just somebody who's so focused on his work, his career,
his status,
money,
success,
denying all of his pain, all of his fears, just like living in it pretty much. So he's definitely become a pirate. When I watched that for the first time when I was younger, obviously had no idea what that meant. Like at all. Nah, not at all. Like,
I did.
I was so
I can remember it like I'd go, yeah, I know, like he's a pirate. Like I just remember, and I knew
Wow.
exactly.
You knew exactly
I
what
knew
they
exactly what they meant.
Oh,
Be-
wow.
I don't know. I don't know why. I
Yeah.
just understood it because
Yeah.
I think I could see it in my dad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, you've become a pirate, you know?
Wow.
Anyway.
I didn't have that in depth of feeling when I was a kid, like
Yeah.
at all. So when I watch films, I often didn't see the symbolisms or the meaning behind a lot of things
But
at
you
all.
got to understand also, we watched movies on repeat, right? I mean, it was our generation that we would do that anyway
Yeah.
because you had your VCRs or whatever, but we didn't really have those stuff either because Dad wouldn't spend money on those too much, right? He did a little bit, but it was more the once a year, a certain year, like they'll do Wizard of Oz a million times, or they'll do
Yeah.
like for an anniversary, or they'll do Hook once a year or once every
Yep.
2 years. So you go, oh, it's on, so you're gonna watch it again, right?
Yeah.
And so those are the opportunities I had to go, oh, I'm watching that one again, and I'll watch it again, and because I'm watching it 2-3 times as a little kid, like
Yeah.
I get to understand it more and
But
more.
I used to watch things over and over and over as well and did not understand a thing. So I'm like, woohoo, I love this movie. Yeah. That's all I was like, it's
I
just
don't
the pleasure of it, like the entertainment of it. But yeah, anyway.
Anyway.
But that's what kind of like Wendy meant by a pirate. Like
Yeah,
he's
that's-
just so focused on like money, like power, status, and all these things.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And I think that's why we wanted to go on a tangent just to explain that, because
Yeah.
then we get what she means by also you've become a pirate.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And then we get to the place where the children are playing now because she lets them play. And then he gets a phone call and
Yeah.
he's like, Brad, how did it go? Like, did we seal the deal or what? Because he literally left it just one day of the deal out, and he's getting all this bad news, like it's a $500 million deal and it's, they're losing it or he's lost it and da-da-da-da-da. He's like, how did you lose it? And, and the kids are playing, and then he goes, well, why doesn't someone just shoot me in the head, right? And the kid just turns around and goes, bang, bang, and
Pretends
then
to
he
shoot
just loses it, right?
Yeah, just fully yells at them, like, yeah, just becomes so rageful and impatient and is like, get out of the room, everyone.
Yeah, like, Maura, take care of the kids, would you? Like, I'm on the phone call of my life.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And Wendy hears that from the outside. She grabs the kids and she takes them out and stuff. But it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't know other people's lives, but like, I could relate to that. Like, there's always that boiling point, and then your parent just snaps.
Yeah, totally.
And you're like, I don't even know what happened. Like, what's going on? Like,
yeah.
I was just playing 1 minute and now you're screaming at me. Like,
yeah, exactly. I do remember those moments.
I feel like
in my
it's common,
childhood.
but there's a lot of people that go, well, no, my parents never yelled, and I'm like, I don't know. There could be the juxtaposition.
Yeah, mine definitely did.
Mine. I mean, I don't think there's any Greek family out there that their parents don't yell. So
yeah.
But yeah, so then basically in that moment, then the wife has a talk with him.
Has a bit of a chat with him, yeah.
But as she goes to have a chat with him, his phone rings again. She grabs it and throws it at the window.
She's had enough.
She's
angry.
Yep. And she's going to now address him. And she says it for the third time.
Yeah.
You don't understand, Peter. You are missing it. Because what does she say? She said, there is only a few short years that your kids want to be around you. They want to play with you. After that, you'll be chasing them for attention.
Yeah.
And you are missing it.
Yeah, you're missing their childhood. You're missing these years of being present with them and seeing them grow up and getting to know them, and just all those things, where a lot of families, like, is pretty much like how a lot of families are.
I just love how you just said getting to know them. That's a really cool thing to say.
Yeah, because like
it got me emotional a little bit because I'm like, I didn't really think about that. They didn't want to get to know you.
Yeah, they don't even really have the conversations to get to know you, and I mean, like, I didn't have, like, I just remember my childhood. There were no real conversations.
No.
Just, there wasn't. So, yeah, no getting to know, like, their children. Like, no, yeah, it was just not present in my childhood at all either.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, she's talking about this in the film where he is just so caught up in his work that he's missing out on these beautiful years of being able to get to know his children, see them grow up, and be able to create memories with them, I suppose, or
Yeah.
lead them, guide them, just yeah, because he's so in his like adult facade, like
Yeah.
yeah.
And the interesting part about all that is, so it's like she planted the seed there, and it just went straight over his head. He doesn't get it.
Yeah, he doesn't get it at all at that moment.
And this is
Like,
I mean, look how
he's
much
thinking
adult
about
facade
it.
are we watching in this? Like, this is so valuable.
Yeah,
right?
you can see that he's sort of thinking about it. It's sort of like, kind of like he's like,
Oh, I kind of see what you're saying.
I
Yeah,
kinda
you're
see,
right.
but he's
But and then
not really wanting to accept it at that point.
exactly. And then we get to as they're about to leave the house, right? I wanted to add this because I thought it was really. It's a millisecond in the thing,
Yeah. So far,
and it means so much.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
No,
Yeah.
tell me. So
I
far,
was going to say, like, so far, in terms of his adult facade, we see him in fear. He's impatient and angry. He's, chasing after money and work and all of those
Status.
things, status. And then there's one.
And there's one more.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's one more, but there's another one.
There's one more, at least one more.
Yeah.
And where he's tucking the kids in bed, and he tucks in Maggie. Maggie says to him, "Daddy, look, Toto made this paper flower for me. And it smells beautiful."
Yeah.
And then she goes, "Smell it." And he goes, "It's paper, honey." and he's tucking her, right? And it's like, he's so fixated, like you said, in the real world that he's forgotten how to use his imagination.
Totally. He has no imagination whatsoever, no creativity left in him. He's just so like logical, I guess, practical.
It's logical.
Well, I mean, logical is not a bad thing, but he's more like,
he's not playful. That's a playful.
Yeah, he's lost his playfulness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's like, it's not that they're pretending. It's like they are pretending, but in a playful way. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
And
so he can't even like be playful with his children at all.
He won't even play. Not even for a millisecond.
Yeah.
He even projects, I forgot to say this, he even projects more fear when Jack is near the window. And he goes, "Jack, get away from the window. What did I tell you? Do we ever get near our window anywhere?"
Yeah.
It's like, no, they've got metal bars on them. Like, I'm in prison. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
which is like really symbolic of, the prisons that parents put children in.
Yeah. Like,
in terms of their
play,
free will, like,
I know parents that don't even let their kids play in dirt because they get dirty.
Yeah.
It's like, it's actually very nutrition. Like, it's very good for their immune system to go and play in mud.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
For some reason, I don't know how God made it, but it actually gives them a lot of certain things that their body actually needs, and that if they don't get that, they actually grow up to be very sensitive to illnesses and stuff like that, because they haven't been able to really absorb that thing that they needed as children.
Yeah.
So, like, it's really insane. Like,
that's one thing I'm grateful for, that my mum wasn't like that with me.
Baby, you even got to go on a bike and ride in the rain. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm glad that, like, I just got to experience that as a kid, like just playing outdoors and in nature and like exploring and things like that.
Yeah.
That my mum wasn't, fussy about stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that,
we did that, but we did it more together.
Yeah.
Like, bushwalking, but with Dad. Like,
oh, okay. Yeah. With the parent around.
Yeah.
So
didn't have a lot of like.
You experienced a lot of the prison, didn't you?
You still had a bodyguard anywhere I went.
Yeah.
Then we have where they're at the actual event.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, this is interesting.
Because he goes to England, for those that don't know, he goes to England for Wendy's charity event
Yeah, I
to
think
honor her or something like that.
they're
For
naming a wing of the hospital or something. And
yeah, because she adopted so many children or fostered, or I'm not
I
sure.
think she fostered until they found an adoptive family.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And so she did like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children.
So she was getting honored for her work in the community with children. Yep. So that's why they went to England. So they get there, they had all this hoo-ha happen, and now they're off to the event.
That's right.
Yes.
And so they've arrived at the event and he's done this massive speech.
Yeah.
Right? Which gives us a clue of like maybe because he sees himself as an orphan, that's the pain that he's hiding. Right? Which
Yep.
gives us a little inkling of like why he is the way he is. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So he says his speech and he goes, I guess we all have something in common. We're all orphans. And he hits him hard a bit. But in that time as well, can I just read that quickly because there's quite a big point.
Yeah. So maybe I just want to add to that, like, you know, we're getting a little bit of an inkling of his ghost, I suppose, in terms of story lingo.
Oh, I love it when you go into story lingo like that, baby girl.
And like,
this is correct.
This is like, I guess, giving us a little bit of a hint as to perhaps why he's become so shut down, why he's, you know, become so far removed from his true self because he doesn't want to remember that
his
pain of being an orphan.
Exactly.
So,
and
but we don't really like.
We don't have an actual. I wrote here possibly
it's
driven by the feelings from being an orphan. I wrote here to fit in a world no one's being real in life, thus making him change his perspective. No one cares who you are unless you have status, and this is firstly false in God's eyes. But people don't care about God's truth. They need to get rid of this feeling. So we attach ourselves to people who have built this facade of confidence and status when really no one is above anyone else. We are all equal in God's eyes. Society's changed this, not God. And I just want to add that because I'm like, I feel like if this is the reason, this orphanness that he feels, this deep sadness of being an orphan, and then say Wendy takes him in when he's just come from Neverland, you know, and helps him and forces him out, right? She keeps him as he is, the person who he is. But then when he gets fostered out, that family doesn't understand that he's a childlike personality that didn't lose his childlikeness. But that family could have beat it out of him. And then he became the status, the this, the that. Does that make sense? And we'll get how, like, even though he got fostered out at 13 years old.
Did he get fostered out at 13 years old?
Yeah, he said he was 12 or 13. Yeah. And he goes, I don't remember anything before I was 12 or 13. And she goes, there's so much before that, you know?
Oh, okay. Because he got fostered out at 12 or 13. And that's when he started to grow up. Gotcha.
And the interesting part is how Steven Spielberg did such a great job too. And he probably did it instinctively, but that same sadness of being an orphan is a similar thing. And how he's become the success he's become is very similar to the actual wound underneath that, which is like the ghost of the ghost, you know, about his mother, which we'll go to when we get to the mother part, right?
Yeah.
But it's almost parallel, which is very interesting. It's like he attracted the parents that he didn't want that his mother was.
Yeah, right. Okay, sense? Interesting. Yeah, cool.
Those are very little clues, but you kind of link it, like as an actor, you would link those little things.
So just to make that a little bit more clear,
go.
Like in regards to what you wrote there, you're talking about how like, I guess the reason why he is the way he is today was because of this pressure placed on children to grow up. Yes. Because they feel like they can't fit in otherwise.
Exactly.
They
Like-
need to like, basically it's the conditioning and societal expectations placed on children to suppress their true nature, which are all these beautiful qualities that we're going to like get into the next about the real self, you
Yeah.
know, to suppress their true nature by you know, that all of the wonderful things that we love about children, you know. So it's this conditioning placed on children to grow up that perhaps is the reason why Peter Pan decided in this film to grow up, because he wanted to fit in. He wanted to, what was the other things that you said?
So
It was to fit in to,
nobody, like it's. I wrote here that if he's being real, his real self,
yes,
and everyone around is not being their real self,
he has this pressure to fit in.
right?
Yep.
Otherwise, you know, people won't want him around.
Well, people are going to judge him and, you know, put him down for his true nature.
So then he develops this feeling of like, oh, I need to change my perspective. I need to change this. Right? Now you change your perspective. Now no one cares about me if I don't have status. Well, I better get some status.
Yes.
You know? Oh, well, you know, I'm not important in this world if I don't have money. Like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like,
which is, all of the conditioning of the
society
world onto children. Grow up, get a job, get a house, have a family, all these.
Be
like,
successful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I found that really interesting because I'm like, yeah, I think that's what is probably the ghost and the underlying current as to why he's become what he's become.
Why he's grown up.
We can't know for sure because it's not specifically told, but
Yeah.
as an actor, that's what I would put as my backstory. So
Sure. And it's there, it's just not in your face.
Exactly.
It's very subtle moments in the film that give us these little clues that we put together to go, oh, that's maybe why he's like the way he is now.
Yes.
In terms of, you know, his pain,
Yes.
his grief. Like, yeah.
And you'll see it. We'll see it a little bit more when we get to when he's found his real self and he's engaged the real moment down the bottom.
Yeah.
But on top of that, the last thing I wanted to also add was the part where something's happened.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Should I add that now, or do I talk about that? Yeah, I think I add it now.
Yeah, because it's talk about it
because we're
now.
at that event.
Yeah,
and
we're at the event.
Then, as the kids are getting kidnapped,
Mm-hmm.
because there's cross cuts.
Yeah, cross cuts between the event and what's going on back at the house with the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone's clapping for Wendy because there's a standing ovation, which is really shocking, and everyone's wow, like everyone stood up for her. And she stands up and she's thanking them in a way, and then as she's doing that, a gust of wind comes and she can feel something, and she's almost faints.
Yeah.
She falls back down onto her seat.
Sensitive to this.
And no one else is sensitive to what just happened. She goes, something, she could feel it in her heart, something happened, right? Because she still got that inkling of being herself in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
She's still connected to her feelings.
You're right. And feelings and instinct and all this stuff that children have, you know?
Yeah.
And so she, out of not even the parents, felt something happened to their children.
The parents were so numb to it.
They were numb to it.
They
Even though the daughter is still connected to her childlikeness, in some way she was not sensitive enough like Wendy. You know? Because Wendy also knows the feeling of what Hook feels like.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And so in that moment, it's demonstrating like how desensitized the adults become in their facade, desensitized to feeling, desensitized to emotion, desensitized to,
the world.
Being a sensing, feeling being, like desensitized. So that was a really cool thing that you picked up on, which, I thought, that was really cool because I totally didn't connect that at all in that moment.
Yeah.
But like it's a really good, another demonstration of this adult facade, like in terms of, you know, like one of the qualities of the adult facade is that you're very insensitive. You're just numb. You don't feel anymore.
Yeah.
So that was a good one.
Because I feel like so many, like all children, if they haven't been damaged already, will feel straight away when a parent's being unloving to them. Will feel straight away when someone's angry really at them, even though they're saying it in a nice way.
Yeah.
They can feel it.
Yep.
And that's what Wendy was doing there. She could feel it.
She could feel it. She could feel this energy, this danger, or something's not right.
Something's not right.
And when you are sensitive,
you can feel
feel like something, you could feel something's not right to someone on the opposite side of the world.
Yeah.
You know, like, or, you know what I mean? Like, apparently,
Well,
when you become really sensitive,
enough,
like, this is what we've been told and what we've learned, that if we become sensitive enough, we will have the ability to sense someone across the opposite side of the world and what's going on with them in our soul. Like, so, yeah.
Totally. And
so she's having this moment where she's sensing something's going on at the house.
Yeah.
And that's when we go back to the house.
Yeah. And they've arrived and they see that someone's come in, the children are gone, etc. Right? Now then, straight away, Wendy knows he's got a mission. Yeah. Wendy knows, okay, you got to go back. You got to remember. You got to do, but who says it to him straight up? Toto, who's never lost his.
Is it Toto or Toodles?
Oh, Toodles, sorry. Toto. Toto, the little dog.
We're not in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. I wrote it right. I just didn't say it right.
That's all good.
And he says, have to fly, have to fight, have to crow, have to save Maggie and Jack. Hook is back. Right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that part because, like, we think Toodles is mentally impaired. We think he's lost his marbles, as it says in an aspect of it.
Yeah.
And he looks a bit crazy, like he's lost his marbles, literally, know. But he's a whisper in that, in the sense that he's like, this is what you got to do. You have to fight. You have to crow. You have to save Maggie and Jack. Hook is back. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that was a whisper from, like, it's in a way that's a direct whisper to Peter of, like, this is the stuff you need to do.
Well, in a way, it's the
mission.
The mission of what he is supposed to do, and a part of that mission is finding himself again. In terms of, like, reconnecting with who he is.
Exactly. And the thing is that, like,
in order for
tell me.
I was going to say, like, in order for him to be able to save his children, he's got to reconnect with who he is.
Exactly.
And find himself again. Because his worst nightmares have come true. All of his fears that he projected onto his children and his facade has happened, and they're gone.
Yeah.
That's true in real life. Like, when you don't deal with your fears and you don't deal with your pain, you're going to attract events to you to help you to deal with all of that.
And what a way to, like, attract this big event where he has to not only save his children, remember who he is, find his childhood self again, like, reconnect to his feelings and play and instinct and so much stuff that he's going to have to learn.
Yeah.
And we get told what he needs to do in 2 sentences.
Yeah. And in that moment, he has no idea what Toodles is going on
about.
Yeah,
he's like, oh, here we go, crazy man about flying again.
Yeah. He's just, like, rolling his eyes all the time.
Because even when the cops come, which was that Collins guy that you were saying, is that Collins, whatever his name is, the singer? Anyway, and he says, Toodles goes up to the officer and he goes, I've forgotten how to fly. And then he goes, yes, well, one does, like, he thinks, oh, the poor mental guy, he thinks he can fly, like, but, like, it's not that. It's the fact that, like, that's how people will judge you in real life. If you stay a child forever, like, not necessarily a child, but If you
If
stay
you
childlike,
if you
stay connected.
stay connected to your childlike nature
That's how
Yeah.
much of a misfit you will be
in the world.
Like
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if he actually realized he did that
Yeah.
as a thing, but like how much depth is in that?
Yeah, like in
Because
terms
they
of
will think you are like if you stay your true self,
yeah.
people will literally ostracize you.
Yeah, and see you as mentally ill or just judge you, just judge you for it. Like,
You know,
yeah, you'll get like, yeah,
you'll just be judged to be childlike
yeah,
because they'll be like, "Haven't you grown up yet? Be
yeah,
mature."
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
like this
exactly.
is not mature.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that is like how the world views emotions and views um feeling emotions. It's just
exactly.
very judgmental of it, and um yeah, and that's why when we get into our adult facade, we are so far removed from that, we've shut down everything like that we
Exactly.
once were. So yeah.
But the thing is, when I used to watch it, I'd go, "Oh man, he is really like a bit mentally dumb," like. But I love the payoff at the end, and you realize, oh my god,
Yeah.
he wasn't crazy after all.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. He really did lose his marbles. Yeah,
um,
totally. But yeah.
yeah, they like I wrote here. Most people brush people like Toodles off as a lost soul, but sometimes they are the ones that are lost. That's what I wrote.
Yeah,
But that we
definitely.
are. We
Yeah,
are the lost
100%.
souls, not Toto. He knows who. Toto, not Toodles. He knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You don't know who you are, and that's the
Yeah.
irony of the thing. I love it.
Yeah, that's the irony of it. So good. Hey, there's so many there's just this film is rich in like symbolisms all from the moment it begins. Like even just going back to the play a little bit as well, right at the beginning. What did Peter Pan in the play say to the little girl? Because she goes, "Are you crying?"
And what did he say?
And he goes, "No, I'm not crying," or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like even, it demonstrates like even in the play, and I don't know if it's in the real play, the actual play, but
Yes.
even in
pretty
the
sure it is.
play, it demonstrates that even Peter Pan, who's supposed to be connected to his true self, is already developing a little bit of a facade, of like hiding his emotions. You know what I mean?
Well, because what I found really powerful about this is it's not him, because when he develops like to find his real self, right? Yes, parts of his real self is playful, right? But just because you're childlike, you shouldn't be childish, right? When I say that, I mean like, yes, be playful, be yourself, be open, be this. But when you start to go, I want to stay a child forever, now that's a facade.
Yeah.
Now that's you trying to be, and I've done
Something that you're not.
something that's impossible.
It's not
Because
about
you're trying to hold
remaining
on
a
to something
child.
because of your grief.
Yeah, but how's that related to what I just said? Like, because I was talking about Peter Pan, the play at the beginning.
Yes.
How's that related? Because like,
Well,
I'm
because you're
talking
saying
about
he's developing a facade even as a child.
yeah,
Right? But no, Peter Pan,
the
actual Peter Pan is a facade that he developed because of his childhood fear.
Ah, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
I didn't want to grow up,
Yeah.
so I ran away.
Ah, gotcha.
And then I stayed in a bubble.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
And then I realized I can't stay in this bubble anymore.
Yeah.
And so he married.
Yeah.
He married Moira.
Yeah.
Mora.
That's a good point.
So it's a double. It's a double facade.
Edge sword.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he
I get
realized that's why when he's become Peter Pan at the end,
it.
and he goes, "But it's time for me to go now, boys."
Yeah.
Right? He's trying to say, I will hold on to the real me.
Yeah.
But I have to continue my life.
Yes. Yeah, cool. That's a good point
That's
to
good.
make about the actual Peter Pan story.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's true that, like, in the sense of, like, God wants us to grow and grow up, but God doesn't want us to lose those beautiful qualities that we had, that God placed in us, the instinctual qualities. He wants us to grow and learn and, grow into adulthood and things like that, but not necessarily remain childish, but just remain childlike.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
why it's like and not remain a child.
Yeah, exactly.
It
Yeah,
says remain childlike because you're still going to
exactly.
grow up,
Yeah,
but you need to keep the real essences of yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
Yeah, and that's exactly what Jesus said in the Bible as well, and
exactly.
even in current day. Oh, I love
But
that.
isn't that
Yeah,
fascinating? Because
yeah.
I saw that because I was
Mm.
stuck in Peter Pan's Neverland.
Yeah, yeah,
I was stuck there because
yeah,
I wanted to relive my childhood a million times because I missed out on everything.
yeah, gotcha. So you were living in your pain, not actually being childlike. You were
Exactly.
just avoiding pain.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, cool, cool.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, and then we finally get to, I think there's only one or two more things of his adult facade in terms of
Being at the house in England.
I'm up to meeting Hook for the first time. So if you have any more
Oh, so yeah,
stuff,
there's a little bit more that happens
tell
after,
me.
they realize all the children's gone.
Yeah.
Peter, the adult Peter, is in the room talking to Wendy. And this
Oh,
is
that's
when
right. That's up there. That's the one I told you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So
go
did
for
you
it.
want to go?
No, just
Yeah,
say it.
so basically he's talking to Wendy and she's like showing him the book, right? The Peter Pan book.
This is the part where I was telling you, she says, how far back can you remember Peter? And then he goes,
Exactly.
when I was 12, 13, when I got adopted. She goes, you're nearly 12 or 13 then. Like,
There's heaps before then. Yeah. So he basically doesn't remember his childhood at all. So he also doesn't want to hear or deal about his childhood because he's like, you're Peter Pan. Didn't she say that?
yeah.
She's like, don't you remember? Like, and he's like, I don't want to hear this right now. I don't want to deal with it.
I wrote here the power of truth. I wrote, Wendy finally shares the truth about Peter, but Peter forgot his childhood. And she reveals the truth. He is Peter Pan and he won't have a bar of it. He actually says, I quote, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. But there's a moment in that scene where he puts on his glasses and he puts his hands on his hips. And I was like, that's gold because like he doesn't want to reconnect with his childhood self, but it's instinctual inside of him still, like his little mannerisms of like what Peter Pan does with the hands on the hip, So I was like, that's really cool symbolism there of like these instinctual childhood like qualities. Like obviously this is a physical
mannerism, which is not necessarily
an external physical like mannerism that is not necessarily part of the real self, but to me what it symbolized,
it was more a visual version of it.
It was a visual symbolism of this instincts inside of the child, the natural self, being expressed externally.
Yeah.
Which wasn't lost in him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's still there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like you've forgotten everything, but your soul hasn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Which is
you've
powerful.
Forgotten it. That's such a beautiful way to put it. So now I don't remember if this happens before Toodles says all the how to fly.
Yeah,
you have to fly, fight, crow, save Madagy. Like this moment with Wendy, I think happens just before. Toodles comes in and says, "Have to fly."
Which part? This part with the book?
Yeah. Does that happen before? After? It does.
Because then he goes into his alcohol,
his
thing
panic thing, and
you want to talk about this Tinkerbell part?
Yeah.
So go
on. Basically, he's basically just like, don't talk to me about this. Don't want to know yet. He's still in resistance. He's still in his facade. And then like he notices something out the window come flying in, and it's Tinkerbell, right? And so he's meeting Tinker for the first time at Wendy's. And that's all I wrote in terms of my notes. If you have more,
with
I
the
don't.
Tinkerbell thing, because there was parts in that scene that you really loved.
Like, so he meets Tinkerbell, right? And he can't get over what he's seeing. And he's still in just complete denial because he's like, I'm going crazy. That's it. Like, I'm dying.
This is some kind of illusion. It's
I'm
hallucinating. Like,
yeah.
That's it. I probably have died, and this is I'm following the light, and yes, and there's a dollhouse, and he's like, and that's my house. Yep, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when he said, "I don't believe in fairies," I might mention this. I wasn't going to, but
that's okay.
When he says, "I don't believe in fairies," then she does the whole like when someone says that, because it's actually written in the book, the original book. When someone says they don't believe in fairies, then a fairy falls over and dies somewhere. Right? And so then he goes, I don't believe it. He says it a second time. And then she goes,
yeah.
And she's like, right? And then she goes, to save it, you have to clap, right? And then louder and louder. And then the louder you go, that's actually part of the play.
Okay.
The original play.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Because that happens. And then no one understood that part. But when he put in the original play, he put those kids between it. The kids started to clap to save the fairy's life. And it ignited the adults next to the kids to go, oh, they're playing. They're engaged. Oh, I'm meant to be engaged in this. Oh, and then they started clapping with their children.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right? That's based on truth of what actually happened.
What actually happened in the original play.
In the original play, that and the original live audience. The adults didn't understand that child got it. Gotcha. Right? So he wrote it. He knew the child would get it, but he knew that the adult might not. So then that adult started to go, oh, I'm meant to play. So when she does that and she's trying to get Peter to clap, she's trying to get him to play.
That's right. I remember that now.
She goes, louder. Like,
and he's like,
yeah. And
so he's actually now in his like playtime.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not realizing
that is make believe.
And that he's
then she
playing.
goes, and she jumps up and he goes, oh, good. Like,
yeah. Totally.
And so I wanted to mention that because that's the moral of the whole clapping is to get people engaged and playing.
I see.
Do you know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
And he got the children to play, but when it was full adults, none of them did it. And so he had to think of a way to figure out how to get them to realize what he's trying to do with this. Right? So I thought that was really powerful as well.
Yeah, totally.
Then he has to play some more when he has to play a pirate.
It's cool how like he's having all these moments throughout his facade of just little seeds being planted to try and reconnect him with that like true part of himself and
feeling.
Yeah, with feeling again and playing and having imagination and things like that.
Exactly.
Even though
he was believing it. He was thinking life or death. Like he didn't. He's not processing that like you can play. Do you know what I mean?
And that's like, I guess what God is also trying to do with us in our lives, trying to help us break down this facade and bringing us events, people, situations to help us to, I guess, work through that facade and get back to and reconnect with these childlike qualities.
We'll talk about it when we get to childlike qualities because there's a lot that I'd love to say there.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then he meets Hook for the first time. There's a little bit in between him meeting Hook, but do you have anything to say in that part?
When he meets Tinker and he ends up knocking himself out or something happens where he gets knocked out. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
she flips the carpet from underneath him and he does a big flip and gets knocked out.
Yeah, that's right. He gets knocked out and she actually transports him to Neverland.
Yeah.
To Hook, and that's how he arrives in that world into meeting Hook.
So basically, here, why is the word Nikki here? Anyway.
Oh, because that's mine. Because I wrote it on mine that you're going to talk about meeting Hook for the first time.
I know, but do you have anything else on that?
I don't have the
good, because I got 2 notes here.
Oh, great.
Okay. What is an adult move to do if your kids are kidnapped?
Oh, yeah.
Go on. Like, because he does it in this. What's the first instinct of
Call the police.
okay, but there's no police, so what does he do?
Oh, gotta go and find them.
No, he's there. Hook is saying,
Oh, right. I don't know. I've forgotten,
okay,
babe.
so he goes like this. The first thing Peter tries to do, he goes, draw your weapon, says
to fight.
Hook,
Yeah.
right? And Peter goes, all right. And he pulls out a checkbook and a pen, right? And that's to say, I'll bribe you. I can buy you. How much do you want? Name your price. You know?
Yeah.
The first thing an adult would think is bribe. Yeah. I can bribe them.
You need money. I got it. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go,
Mm-hmm.
Another way to deal with conflict was money, right? Another way, and then I love the part where Hook's like, well, just get out of your body and fly up there and save your children, right? He goes, I don't fly. I'm a human being. Like, this is crazy, But when Hook goes, he says, stop that charade, Peter. Fly up there and save your children. I like the word charade, like,
Charade, yeah.
It's like he's trying to say, like, because he even says, like, break out of that shell and whatever the word he says, and then he goes, you're in there, stop pretending,
Stop pretending, yeah.
And I thought it was so, like, just the wording of how they wrote those spots. I'm like, it's true. He is in there somewhere. You know what I mean? And
he's just in this facade.
He's in this facade.
Which is the charade.
Yeah.
The big act that he's putting on.
The big act that, that he doesn't remember. And then he actually tells him he's scared of heights and he starts laughing, which is the judgment of adults.
Yeah, exactly,
like, I'm scared of heights. And he's like, Peter Pan is scared of heights. Like, so that's hilarious.
The pirate is judging the pirate.
Yeah. And he goes up there and then the kids are desperate. Come on, Dad. Like, Mummy will do it. Like, you got to be able to reach our hands and stuff. And he gives up.
Yeah.
He
can't do it.
He can't do it. And that gives Jack another justification of, like, he didn't even try. He doesn't care about me. Do you know what I mean? Another justification that sinks into a child to think the parent don't care about them.
Yeah, exactly.
Not important enough to be saved. Not important enough to be rescued. Not important, whatever it is that the child feels.
Yeah.
I thought that was really powerful because then you got Hook that wants to just kill him, like, it's all over. And then Tinkerbell does a negotiation with him, right? And why does he agree to that negotiation? He agrees because he wants his war. He wants what he wants, right? It's that adult need of going, I want what I want and I will get what I want and I will do whatever it takes to get what I want, right?
Yeah.
So Hook will go to the ends of the earth, literally.
Yeah.
To start this war. He wants to kill Peter, so then he has the status of everyone remembers that I killed Peter Pan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he could kill anyone, right? But it's Peter Pan he wants to kill.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And he doesn't want to kill him while he's like that. He wants to kill him when he's at his peak.
When he's Peter Pan again.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all that justification there, because he could have just killed him there and the movie's over. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's that greed of status, power, control, being remembered as the most notorious pirate of the 7 seas. These are the things that motivate him to have the war of the century, as he said.
Yeah, gotcha.
And again, that's something as adults we do, isn't it? Like, we want what we want. We are going to attack anyone and take people down wherever to get what we want.
Yeah, totally. It's in like, that adult facade, like, we are going to get it no matter what.
And we'll put people down to climb on top of them. We don't care what happens to that person.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really vicious what we do. And it's so ironic, I think it is.
Sometimes it's not even as extreme as that. Like, it's sometimes also very subtle,
Yes.
It can be very subtle, like, through condescension, manipulation, all these underhanded ways, sneaky ways that we go about trying to get what we want. For
Yeah.
example, I remember a certain experience that we had and we fell for a hook, line and sinker. Like, when we had when we were on a job and we were taking photos and the person goes, "Oh, ladies, you're doing such a wonderful job." And then, we're like, "Oh, okay, no worries." Like, yeah, you're welcome. And then she's like, "And I've got these like I've got these products, dog products. Can you take some photos of these as well?" And they weren't a part of like our agreement,
Yeah.
So she fully buttered us up before actually, getting she basically manipulated us to get something extra that she wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like,
100%.
damn, I just fell for that. Like, you
I
know
didn't
what I
fall
mean?
for I didn't even notice until you told me about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much I fell for it. Like,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
didn't have the courage to address it in that moment. I was scared.
Yeah.
So I was in my facade as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it can be very manipulative as well, underhanded ways, sleazy things that we do to get what we want in
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
in our facade.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And
And I'm not gonna, just want to say that I've had plenty of times when I've acted in that way as well to get what I wanted. So
yeah. Yeah.
something that been working on for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
to not be in that facade in that way. Just like for an example, being hypersexual in my music journey, in
Yeah.
previous music videos, stuff
Yeah.
like that, just to
Yeah.
get attention or whatever it
Yeah.
was that I was seeking, all these like icky things that you try to get from people, the adoration, glory,
Yeah.
approval. You give them a little bit of like, ickiness.
Seduces them, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So,
and
and I've been, guilty of that as well. So,
yeah.
okay. So after arriving in Neverland
Yep.
and meeting Hook, he then meets the Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys.
And that's where we see more of his like facade, or him still in resistance to his new environment.
Exactly.
Because he's basically treating the children as if he's their parent, and he's saying stuff like, who's in charge? Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
He's like, who's in charge here? Like,
Everyone points to Rufio.
another kid.
Yeah.
So he's basically like, treating the kids how a parent would. And does he say, "I'm not a pirate?
Yes.
I'm a lawyer"?
Yes. And then
so he's in denial of his facade.
And then they go, "Fine, kill the lawyer." And he goes,
Yeah.
"I'm not that kind of lawyer."
Yeah. So, and he's basically like running away in fear from these unhinged children, right? So he's like just trying to get away from them at all costs. And just for people who don't know, the Lost Boys are all the like little kids in Neverland.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who I guess are orphans as well, or why do they call them the Lost Boys? I don't really know.
Well, they kind of did what Peter Pan did. They left their family because they wanted to stay children
in Neverland.
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, he's not doing too well in meeting the Lost Boys for the first time because they are triggering him to like, the max, and he's like just basically wanting to get away from them.
He's in survival mode and they're in play mode, and he doesn't receive that they're in play mode. So like, they're doing like the cowboy Indian thing and trying to shoot him with like bow and arrows,
and
and then they're playing skateboards and he's trying to escape, and then somehow he lands on a skateboard and he's like, going all the way there, and then like he falls off the skateboard.
Yeah.
Then they play basketball with him and they're telling him to play and they're just hitting him with the ball and he doesn't receive it.
Yeah.
And then and basically they're like, they draw a line eventually in the sand. Rufio's like, right, if you think that fat guy there, that old man is Peter Pan, then stay on that side. If you are sticking with me, then come on my side of the line.
Yeah.
And even Peter just starts walking over to refuse side. I'm not Peter Pan. I don't know who. I'm Peter Banning. Like,
Yeah.
and then Tinkerbo's like, you're embarrassing me right now. Get on your side. Like,
Yeah.
and all the kids run over to Rufio's side. And
Yep.
my favorite part is this part. The power of children
Yep.
to see and seek truth is this part for me. Where the youngest one, the smallest of the boys, stays still.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's run to the other side, and he approaches Peter.
Mm.
And he starts to try to see through the wrinkles, maybe I can see. And then eventually he pushes the smile up to see Peter's face when he smiles.
Okay, yeah.
That's when he goes, oh, there you are, Peter.
Yeah.
I can see you now. I see you in you.
Yeah.
That
was such a magical moment.
Such a magical moment.
Powerful moment as well.
Powerful
in the
moment.
film.
Always made me cry as a kid. And then I feel I saw that even little children, like only little children, because even as you get older as children, you stop doing that.
Yeah.
But when you're really little, right, you're open to seeking truth, open to exploring, to finding and learning.
Yeah.
And that kid explored and found the truth. The others didn't. They followed.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do as a kid as well. You
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
So
that was a great moment.
love that moment.
Yeah, like that little child, like being able to like engage some of his true qualities of like exploration and discovery and stuff like that to really like see if he could find the real Peter in there somewhere. Yeah.
And
That's
seek the
awesome.
truth.
Yeah,
He
and
really
seek the
wanted the truth.
Yeah. Because they're always asking questions, aren't they, kids?
Yeah.
I want to know this. I want to know that. I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, totally. Yeah, so that was a really beautiful kind of moment. That again was just another little layer to help Peter, get in touch with his real self.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut back to the pirates again, and we get to see a bit more of this adult facade in action in what's going on with the pirates.
Yes.
Shall we go into that?
Sure.
Cool. So, some of the key moments I had with the pirate, which is actually a point that you made me aware of, which is something that can happen in our adult facade is that we become so rageful and angry that we no longer want to be here, we want to attack ourselves, and that happens with the pirate. He wants to kill himself because he's just in a rage, right? He's just, what was he unhappy about? Peter being back, or like what was his rage about?
Yeah, so I wrote here like he's angry about his good form. Good form meaning like his fairness. He's being fair there and he shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
right?
so he's attacking
angry.
himself.
He's like, oh man, and now I have to, not only am I angry that I was polite enough to let him have his time to become the Peter Pan I want to fight, but I have to wait now 3 days for a war. Like, I'm impatient.
Yeah.
Right? Plus, I'm disappointed because I know that he's not going to make it, and I'm going to be even more disappointed. And then, plus, I hate living in this flawed body. He literally says, I hate my body.
Yeah.
And I hate living in Neverland, but he doesn't move. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then he's like, and I hate Peter Pan.
Yeah.
Blaming others for his anger and resentment and lack of growth.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, all his anger is in his life makes him feel that there is no point to life, and that his life is over, and that he should just kill himself and commit suicide.
Yeah, exactly. All great symbolisms there, like in terms of great representations of this adult facade, like in terms of, pretty much, when we are in our facade, we are often angry and rageful about not having our addictions met, the things that we want to make us feel good about ourselves. He's basically empty, unhappy, wants revenge, scheming, finding ways for revenge, wants to kill Peter Pan, like you said. He's manipulative, and he wants that power and glory.
That's right.
And he blames others even for his own violence, calls others a sadist, which was manipulative because he's like, Shmee, Shmee.
Yeah.
You tell
Don't
that.
try to stop me, Shmee. Don't try to stop me. Shmee, stop me. Shmee, get off your ass and get over here. I'm about to commit suicide.
So he's like even making other people responsible for his own actions, to get people to partake in his facade. Basically, and then calling Shmee, what are you, a sadist? Just standing by watching me commit suicide?
Because even Shmee was like, oh, he's getting dramatic again. Like, obviously, it's just something that he always does to get attention.
Exactly.
And then he even with what you're saying, he's like, he concludes that death is the only adventure. So he doesn't see life as an adventure.
He doesn't see it, and
do you know what I mean?
That's what we all feel. Well, I know I've felt that so many times. Like, I don't know how long I lived my life not wanting to exist every single day because I was that angry and that in my facade and addictions not being met that I just don't want to be here anymore. And it's just like that, it's just the movie like really without even knowing it. They just had all these
expressed a very deep truth there that a lot of people, who are suicidal actually have a lot of sadness and anger.
Deep down, there's the sadness right at the bottom, but it's covered by anger and attack of self.
Yes.
And another cool thing that I thought was really, awesome that the film really expressed well was how even the pirate hated how he looks.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's a big part of our adult facade is we are so critical of how we look, how are we looking on camera? Oh, can I see my double chin? Oh my gosh, you know what I mean? I know I'm like that.
Yeah.
I'm so critical because I'm still in my facade about that, about living up to these standards of beauty in the world, and
I have that with my fatness on camera. Yeah. For sure.
So we're very critical of how we look, and when we're children, we don't even know how we look because we don't even really take notice of it.
We're busy our zone,
we
being
probably
present.
Look at ourselves, but we don't go, oh, your eyebrow's not perfect. It's got a little gap there. No, you don't even think that there's anything wrong. Like when I broke out in pimples as a teenager, I didn't look at myself in the mirror and go, oh, there's something wrong. I didn't, but it wasn't until people pointed it out to me. Oh, what's going on? You got all these pimples. That you're like, what? But it's more that feeling of judgment they're projecting at you and shame that makes you go,
ever feel that again. So
it's like, I didn't know that was anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
But now I feel like there's something wrong with my skin. I've got to fix it.
Yeah.
Because you're losing that adoration that you once had as a child or whatever it might be, in my case that's what it was, so so we're just gonna go through this really fast because we're running
really fast.
So
the last thing I wanted to, because you mentioned about hook and manipulation, and I just wanted to quickly mention as fast as I can about Jack and Hook. So Shmee then convinces Hook to win the children over so that they can be against Peter.
Exactly.
Maggie is too pure. She does not fall for any manipulation, any this, that. She knows the truth. Jack,
she's still in her innocence.
Angry. Jack is angry at his dad. This is where you can start building your facade, right? He's angry at his dad. He's resentful. He's full of broken promises, and so Hook uses those, like, your dad didn't come to your last game. He broke his promise, this and that. And he's stating truth so he can lure him into becoming a pirate. And so in a way, Jack is almost like eventually Jack becomes a pirate, in a
Mm.
very weird way. He even dresses into a pirate suit to represent that children can lose it. They
Yeah.
can lose it from this, from these
Well,
errors,
well,
from
this is the thing, like, because of the environment, and the, I guess, the way that they're being treated, the way that they're being manipulated, and this is a big truth that generally our facade that we end up with in adult life has been created by ourselves, but it originally gets created from our environment. And then we continue to enact that facade out. So we continue to add to it as we get older. We keep adding to our facade that gets originally created in our childhood from
Mm,
our parents, society, and the environments that we've grown up in. So
yeah,
Jack is now at that age where, you know, Hook is easily able to manipulate him because of the anger that he has with his dad, and is molding this child to create this facade of being a pirate as well.
that's right.
And isn't that, like, I guess I didn't really think of it before, but it shows the intergenerational cycles in a way.
Yeah,
Peter Pan grows up to be a pirate.
yep,
Now his child has become a pirate as well.
that's right.
So this is the effect that we can have on children, um, in our lives. Even
That's
if
right.
we don't have children, if we are a caretaker of a child, or we even work in a childcare center or after school care center where
Yeah,
we're looking after children, if we are in our facade, we can easily now condition those children to have their own facade
that's right.
because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
our
yeah.
own judgments, unloving, whatever it is.
Yeah,
In the case of Hook, he wants this power and he sees Jack as a way in.
that's right.
Mm,
Because um because that's what he does, right? So he
mm,
triggers him with the promise,
mm,
triggers him to express his anger by smashing his dad's watch.
mm,
But um when he reaches his sadness there
mm,
and he says, "Your dad didn't save you," he goes, "But he didn't even try. He did, but
mm.
he's like, he didn't like properly try.
Yeah.
Like in his eyes, his dad
Mm,
didn't. He didn't care enough for them, right?
yeah.
So all that sadness then allows, like you said, Hook to take him, right? But once the baseball thing happens, and
Mm,
Jack has a chance there. Jack
mm,
has choice,
mm,
right? Hook goes, um, "Oh, but your dad will try." And
mm,
the question is, will you want him to save you?
mm.
You know, or are you going to be with me?
Yeah.
That shows the will of a child.
Mm,
Okay. So even if you are a child and you're getting injured by your parents and this and
mm.
that, right? It's your choice at the end.
Yeah, you can still choose something different.
You can still choose something different. He
Mm.
chooses to become a pirate, right?
Yep.
It's the will of the child. And I thought that was
Yeah.
very powerful
Yeah.
because he still put it in the hands of the child to choose.
Yep.
And the
Yeah.
child chose wrong
Yes.
in that
Yes.
moment.
In that moment. Yeah, for sure. So I'll just quickly go over some of my notes unless you had anything more to add.
That's pretty much it.
Um, so in a way, the pirate is also gaslighting. He's saying, "Do you know why parents hate their children?"
Oh, yeah.
So he's, basically blaming the kids as to why parents hate their children. So he's again manipulating and abusing children in that way. And the reason he says because they were happier before they were born, they were free, like
I feel
um
like that some of that might be true for some parents, but sure. Like
yeah, the parents who have children who don't really want children, well, they wanted children because they had them, but they've got all
they
these
miss all their
their,
alone time and their
their
this time and
addictions. They
their
can't have
yeah.
their addictions anymore, I suppose. Or yeah, just don't get any time to themselves. So I've already talked about this, but the pirate loves war, glory, material wealth, success, and winning. He's impatient, um, you know, and he has a lot of hatred in himself. Um, there's a lot of gluttony, greed, selfishness, in terms of how the pirates are. Got everything, all the food in the world, getting wasted and all these riches and stuff like that. Um, And
versus the
he's
childlike
got
self, which is playful and explorative and
exactly.
loves
Yeah.
discovering and
And the biggest thing is that while he wants to kill himself, he is actually afraid of death, which is basically, represented through his fear of the clock.
yes.
And I wrote here, Captain Hook, the infamous pirate from Peter Pan, is afraid of a clock because of his traumatic experience with the ticking of a crocodile. In J.M. Barrie's story, a giant crocodile follows Hook, attracted by the sound of a ticking clock it swallowed. The ticking is a constant reminder to Hook that the crocodile is close by and may soon catch up with him. So he's past trauma. This fear of the clock is symbolic of his constant anxiety and dread of being hunted by the creature and ultimately death itself. The clock serves as a reminder of his mortality and the relentless pursuit of his own doom.
As exactly what I was going to say. The clock represents the time that you have on Earth, right? Your mortality,
Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
And so he wants time to stand still.
Yeah.
That's why he hits every single clock so it stays still,
Oh
right?
my gosh. That's so oh my gosh.
You
That's
didn't
so
realize
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like he wants time to stay still because he doesn't want to die,
Yeah.
right? But he still wants all the like negative stuff that
Yeah.
adults want. Like
Yeah.
we see it as negative, they see it as like positive, right? So they see like gluttony is positive and wealth is positive and partying all the time is positive and hanging out with your friends is positive, right?
Yeah.
And never want all that to end, like
Yeah.
and they just want to stay. So children want to stay in the bubble.
Hang on, you're right away. Can you
Sorry. So the lost boys and children that represent lost boys, like myself, who wanted to stay a child forever, they're stuck in that bubble. Adults are stuck in the pirate bubble where they never want to grow old, but they don't want to, and they don't want to ever die, but they don't want to be children. They just want to be like in their party times,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
exactly.
stay in the party times,
And what is that famous saying? You only live once, like,
Yeah.
so why not party it up until the end? We're gonna die anyway.
Yeah.
But yet we're so afraid of dying.
Exactly.
Like that is one of the biggest fears of humanity is death because
That's right.
we don't believe in an afterlife.
That's why the crocodile represents death.
Yeah, right.
The crocodile is death.
Wow. Isn't that very ironic seeing as that the crocodile is your most favorite animal, yet you have a biggest fear of death that I know of.
I know.
Have you put two and two together with that?
No. I love crocodiles, but I love them as I see them as representing not death but strength.
Interesting. No, I'm just
Yeah.
It's the irony of it that you love crocodiles. It's your favorite animal,
I know.
but you are terrified of death. I just
terrified. I'm more terrified than a normal person is of death.
But you are
not
actually more
my own death,
not your own death,
but my family's death.
Other people's death. Yeah,
that terrifies me the most.
Yeah. So, did you have anything more to say about the pirate?
I just wanted to quickly express Hook also had God's whispers and he just didn't listen to them.
Yep.
Right? So just quickly, basically, he kidnaps Hook's kids. He is about to lose the match against Peter Pan. Remember, he loses his wig and he goes, give me my dignity at least.
Yeah.
He took my hand and fed it to the crocodiles.
Yep.
At least you can do is give me my dignity. So he gives him his wig, right? And he goes,
he's all bald underneath.
Yeah, all bald and old because he doesn't want to show that he's getting old, right? And he explains, you killed Rufio, says Peter to him. You kidnapped my children. You deserve to die. Right? And Hook agrees. Right? Revenge, justice. People call it justice now, right? A lot of people are calling it justice now. And then you get the pure voice of Maggie. And she expresses to her dad, she just wants to go home. She just wants to leave. And in a way, it's Peter's whisper to turn the other cheek. Right?
Yep.
Turn the other cheek. Don't worry about it. It's the end. In the end, Peter doesn't kill Hook. Hook's law of attraction leads him to his own death, and death through his biggest fear, time and Crocs.
And the crocodile.
Right? Because they are represent to him the end of your time and death.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the crocodile kills him, right? Because death gets him, right? But it's not Peter himself who kills him, right? So for me, Hook had his warnings, right? He wanted to start a war, but his thrust for greed, power, superiority, and wanting to be seen as the man who killed Peter Pan drove him to his own death in the end. Right? And his
tragedy.
Exactly. And that's what his final moment was, when Peter tells him to never return to Neverland again. But even in that moment when he's lost and Peter turns around, right? Does Hook listen to that last whisper from God to go, stop? Like, you've had so many chances now, and he still pulls out a knife to kill Peter that last time, right? And that's when he dies.
That's when he dies.
Because then he falls over and he goes in and whatever.
But I thought it was really awesome as well in terms of like the symbolism in the movie in regards to the adult facade in relation to the pirate, was that like often in our adult facade, we already spoke about this, but we care about how we look, and we'll often like modify ourselves to present a different way to the world. I'm totally guilty of this. Like I haven't worked through this facade yet. I'm still very much invested in how I am perceived in the world in terms of how I look. And that was shown through, you know, I guess the pirate. He puts on a wig to cover up his bald head and, you know, puts on this outfit to make himself feel powerful, I suppose.
Yep.
The pirate outfit, and
demands his red carpet when he's going down the stairs.
Demands his red carpet for his status. And yeah, it's just really, you know, a big kind of whisper in this film about some of these qualities of our adult facade that, you know,
I'll never forget it. That's so
create
true,
problems
though.
in our lives.
Like, I'll never forget it that my mum turns up at that Greek thing that we did, you know, and the first thing that one of the girls that like is basically, she's like older than my mum, but she dyes her hair and she looks youthful because she dyes her hair, puts makeup, all that stuff. And
they're the same age, and
I think she's a little older. She's more towards our dad's age than our my mum's age. And she was like, wow, I didn't know your mum's so old, you know. But all my mum is like, she just doesn't dye her hair. My mum's not that, like,
she just leaves her grey hair.
She leaves her grey hair. And she actually had, at that point, she had less wrinkles than that lady. But that lady had makeup on and all that kind of stuff, you know. And she likes to wear useful clothes when my mum wears poor people's clothes, you know. So she judged her by her status of what she looked like. But my mum's actually younger than her, you know. But if she took off all her makeup, wore normal clothes, and didn't have her hair dyed, then how old would she really look? Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing that's a lot of people are trying to hold on to.
And this is something that gets created in us from a young age. This like projections of how we should look and appear to the world and stuff like that, and then gets carried over by us into our adult life, that we have to develop a desire to heal and break down eventually.
Totally.
In God's eyes today.
It's a hard
Not
thing.
eventually.
You know?
It's definitely hard. Like, you have to be at another level of humility to desire that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's basically, I guess, sums up the facade, the adult facade, and how we see that represented in this film. We've got Peter, who's basically so far removed from his playful, childlike self, chasing after money, status, glory, approval of the world, which is really what the pirate symbolizes in this film. You know, some of these, you know, feelings of the adult facade can range from fear to anger, impatience.
Yeah, totally.
Like just pretty much everything that we just went through
Totally.
is all a part of this adult facade. And yes, this is all in the film, but we can really, like, I guess, be inspired by the film to see how that looks like in our own lives and what we can do about it to heal from that.
Yeah,
Because God is always wanting us to heal from our facade and
totally.
work through these layers and break it down, which we're going to get to later on. But we're going to go into now the journey to finding our childhood self, which is whisper number 2, the real self, our soul, and what that looks like from God's absolute truth and perspective versus how that was represented in the film as well.
Sure.
So I'm just going to go over, I guess, what we've learned to be our real self from Divine Truth Teachings. So the real self are qualities that we can develop. The instinctual qualities that we were given is the same for everyone. Children who aren't hurt or damaged express these qualities more easily. However, if these qualities we've been given are damaged, suppressed, then we can end up with a facade where we end up so far away from what God created us to be. So I've got my little magnet here. So this is according to Divine Truth about what my real emotional self is. And I love this little magnet. I always refer back to it when I'm feeling or wanting to just remind myself, But basically, my real emotional self is sensitive, aware, perceptive, and insightful, is expressive, animated, communicative, open, and unrestrained, is honest, truthful, sincere, frank, candid, blunt, and transparent, is adventurous, courageous, daring, bold, creative, brave, and audacious, is curious, inquisitive, questioning, probing, searching, and inquiring, is emotional, feeling, sensing. So they're all about instinctual qualities. And these are the qualities now that we can develop. They're not placed inside of us, but they're qualities that we can develop. So my real emotional self can develop to become wise, intellectual, clever, gifted, and logical. So we're not born with these things. We're not born wise. But my real emotional self can develop to become sensible, practical, responsible, accountable, dependable, and rational, and can develop to become loving, caring, kind, gentle, considerate, and compassionate. So that's just to give our listeners an idea of what we mean by our real emotional self, and to give context to that. So now that we have a bit of an idea of what we believe to be our real emotional self is and what we're aspiring to become, what is Peter's journey to rediscovering his real emotional self in this film? So did you want to talk about this? He starts off in a place of resistance and willpower. That's what I've written here. And I got Nikki in brackets.
Oh, okay. Yep. I was wondering because I'm like, I got my first one says play, and I'm like resistance, but yes. So basically, yes. So we start off with him when he's there in Neverland with the Lost Boys at first, and they're playful, but he's got none of that. He's resisting play, right? Because he hasn't really discovered his real self yet. So he's just resisting that. He's in terror. He's just running away. He's like, oh my God, they're crazy kids. Like they have like no boundaries, like nothing,
Yep.
And then we get to the scene at the dinner table, right? Because, yeah, I'll explain it in that scene. So in the dinner table, right? Everyone's getting excited. They all got food coming and this and that. And then they all place all the food there. They open it up and he sees nothing. And they're eating nothing, right? And he's watching them eat nothing.
And he's like, I want
real food. Like, you know. And then in that moment, everyone goes, well, this was your favorite game. He goes, I don't want games. I want to eat real food and to, so I want to be logical and I want to be in reality and I don't want to be, stop feeding me this junk in a way. Yeah. It's funny.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, right? In that hoo-ha between the two, then Rufio starts to challenge him a little bit and they start to do a little bit of a banter kind of game, right? Which I don't know if that's really like a loving thing, but it's funny, right? And so he's calling him names and he's calling him names and his names are very like bland, like chemistry teacher. Like, they don't even know what that is. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
sounds technical, you know? And then he's like, math tutor, this, that, you know, it was very like,
Yeah.
but then eventually he starts to get really good
Mm.
in saying really weird stuff that then even I feel like me listening to it still, I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, like mung tung tung something. I'm like, what is that? You know? Anyway, and then we have the kids analyzing who's winning, right? And they have to say bangarang, Rufio, or bangarang thing, or if you sucked at it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so there's this, you know, yo-yo of challenge, and eventually Peter wins.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly it's Peter in his instinct, because you're saying they're instinctual. Now Peter's in his instinct. Now Peter's just playing, right?
Yep.
And in that moment when he's in his instinct of just like running his mouth, boom, he goes, oh, I won. And he gets the spoon and he flicks it, and suddenly he can see what the kids are seeing. And he's like, what the hell? And they're like, you're doing it, Peter. You're using your imagination.
Yeah, because when he flicks the spoon, there's this splatter of like colorful gunk on Rufio's face for the first time.
I always thought it was ice cream when I was a kid.
Yeah, it looks like ice cream. It looks
kind
like
of
some
whipped cream, but
kind of like a cream like thing. But yeah, for the first time, he's seeing like what's
the kids see.
what the kids see. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like he's now engaged his visual
Yep.
with his childness, you know?
Yeah.
And so in that moment he's doing that, and then he's now drinking hot cocoa and he can see everything and he's eating, and then suddenly like they have a big food fight, and then in that food fight Rufio's upset and angry that, you know, he lost.
Yeah.
And so he goes to get a coconut to peg it at him. And in the moment that he throws the coconut and he goes to hit, and then someone throws him throws
Tinkerbell.
Peter
Was it Tinkerbell that threw him?
He goes,
the
watch
sword?
out, Peter. No, she goes, watch out, Peter. And then one of the kids throw a sword up.
Oh, right.
And then he
catches it
and he just instinctively turns around
and slices the
it in
coconut.
half.
Yeah.
And that's when he realizes he's in instinct. He's like, I just did that. Like,
and then
back
he
to
goes
adult.
back to the facade of
Right?
like, oh my gosh, fear.
You know?
Yeah, let's run away.
And I thought that was really cool because I was like, I love the fact that like not only did he become playful in that, not only did he use his imagination, but he found his instinct.
Yeah.
And that's what kids are, because they are just very instinctual.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he found his instinct. And I thought that was really powerful because he could have just put imagination, could have put play, and we can see that he's becoming childlike. But you're not childlike truly unless you're instinctual. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And
it's really from this experience that I guess is the beginning of Peter, like the beginning stages of him desiring to connect to himself. And just referencing divine truth, like according to divine truth, imagination can fuel your desire. Imagination can create faith, which will be the seed of your desire.
That's right.
So it's really in this beginning phases of him developing his own desire to want to discover who he is.
Yeah. And just to see like the power of imagination.
Yeah.
Those boys don't starve because they use their imagination.
Yeah.
You know, like, or whatever. Like you can see it as like, because as an adult you go, oh, how do they really eat then? Like, or, you know, now that's your adult head.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're using their imagination. Everything's fine. You know, like it opens the world to us as well when we're watching it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was the moment that Steven Spielberg was trying to do there, where he's trying to open that door for us. You know, or not us, like when I watched it as a kid, but for the adults watching it to remember, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's the first step for that adult when they're watching it.
Yeah, exactly.
To go, oh yeah, I remember that. Because all through that, they're probably looking at themselves going, yep, I've yelled at them for getting down from this and doing that and stop doing that and doing this, you know, so they can see themselves in that.
100%.
Okay. And then we get to, as you're saying, it opens doors to desire and motivation.
Desire to change, the desire and the motivation to change.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, one of the most important scenes following that I put down here was the baseball game. That's when he actually truly changes his desire and his motivation.
Yeah.
It's when he realizes he's lost his child to Hook.
Yeah.
And he realizes that when Jack hits the ball eventually, when he finally sees his son play baseball, which is ironic
the
too,
first time
he missed it.
Yeah.
And then, but in that moment, and he's like, wait for the good pitches and this and that. And he's encouraging his kid watching it. And then when the kid hits the ball, and then he says, my Jack. And then he says, my Jack, as in Hook says it. And it was like they were saying it together. And then it's like, oh no, Hook's now the parent. That's what the juxtaposition of that is, right? And then Hook gives him a lap, and, you know, it's like Jack's forgotten his dad.
Yep.
Hook's his dad now. Like
Yep.
Hook's encouraging him. Hook's there for every game. Hook's, you know, everything that the dad didn't do.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And in that moment, he knows he's lost his son. So it's not about saving his children anymore. It's about getting his son to see him again. You know? Like,
yeah, well, he's realized he's not just lost his son on a physical, external level, but he's lost his son emotionally as well.
That's right. Yeah. I know. You always say it so well, babe.
Because Jack now considers Hook his dad emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally. He's leaning towards more Hook being his dad. It might not be a complete emotional
it's a
thing,
transition.
but
Yeah,
it's a, you know, it's there, you know, and so yeah, like that's where he realizes, oh my gosh, I've not just lost my kid, but I've actually lost him, you know.
And I think this is really vital in terms of adults now, like parents in our life. Like parents think, I gave birth to you, I'm your parent.
Yeah.
But the truth is,
I own you,
and you must listen to me, and I know what's right for you, and I know what's best for you, and da-da-da. And yet they're so not even emotionally there for their child, and they don't care about the emotions of their child. They don't, you know what I mean? And so in a way, like, it shows that to really be a father, to really be a parent, you need to be there, not just present, but emotionally present. Emotionally there for them, like not just physically.
Yeah, it's not about an ownership thing either. To truly be a parent, you have to be their guardian, their custodian, because essentially in God's eyes, in God's world, God's absolute truth, what we've learned is that God is our true parent. The parent, earthly parent, is a custodian, a guardian, a brother or a sister that is there to teach that child about their real parent, God.
That's right.
And to teach that child how to, you know, engage their true self, engage their feelings, engage all these beautiful qualities that God gave them, and how to engage the relationship with God. I mean, that's God's truth, you know, which we don't really see that in this film.
It's like
it's really focused on Peter being the parent and losing his child.
That's right.
And what he has to do to.
But it does focus on the gift of having a child.
Yes.
I think that's the point of, you know, he doesn't see it as just being a dad, but that there's a gift to being a parent.
Yes. There is a gift.
Not an ownership, like you said. There's a gift.
That's right. And it's not until that moment that he starts to realize that he's lost the gift.
Yes.
Which is what his wife was trying to tell him.
All along.
Oh my gosh, I just realized it now.
Yeah,
like
true.
In that moment, you know, his wife was warning him, you're missing it. One day they're not going to want you. And that was the day. So yeah.
That's crazy, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, and then.
So I guess that moment motivates him
to
desire to change.
To finally find himself.
To find
himself. That's it. I got to fly. I got to crow. I got to do whatever it is. Like, I need to learn now.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to reconnect.
It's now urgent.
Like, I want to reconnect.
It's now urgent.
I'm ready to hear.
Yes.
In a way. I'm ready to know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he tries to jump and, you know, fly and whatever. And
then
he goes
back to the Lost Boys area because he's at the pirate location when he was seeing Jack play baseball.
And he storms off, and the Lost Boys see him storming off.
Yeah, and he goes back to the Lost Boys area. Yeah.
And he's trying to jump off this cliff thing, and he's like, oh, not that high, maybe this high. I'm gonna,
Yeah,
you know,
to try and
still
fly
has
again.
that little bit of that fear. You know,
Yeah.
trying to engage his like passion now of
Yeah.
desire, and he jumps, he fails, and then ironically, Jack's ball that's still in the air somehow like comes and
Lands.
hits him in the head,
Yeah.
and it goes into the water.
Yeah.
And that's when he sees the reflection of his real self.
Yeah, exactly.
His childhood self, should I say.
Yeah.
His self, whatever it is, that self. Representing his real self, really.
But before we go into that, we should also mention that before he actually gets to that point of desiring change, he was starting off in a place of resistance and willpower. So he was willpowering his way to change. Remember?
Yeah.
The kids were like, basically in the
I should say
beginning,
that, eh? Yeah.
like the journey back to his real self started off in a place of resistance and willpower to change. He's willpowering it. I'm going to lose this weight, and they're taking him through all these exercises to lose the weight, and taking him through all these different scenarios to help him to reconnect with his real self. But he's still in resistance.
Yeah, it's just all willpower.
It's just
like
all willpower.
He's going on a slingshot and going to go flying up.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, mom, yes, no. Boom, smashed into the thing. And
Yeah, exactly.
like, yeah, good point. Sorry, I forgot to say that. Yep.
Like he's just in this place of willpower, which is what we try to do in real life, in our own lives when we want to make a change, right?
Yes.
We try to willpower our way through making that change, like, and we do a lot of external things to try and change internally, which never ever like works. It always has to be the other way around. You got to desire to change the internal to change the external.
True.
So yeah, it's even in the movie, like, you know, it starts off with him willpowering his way to get back to his real self.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work.
No.
And it wasn't until his actual desire changed, which was the baseball game, coming back trying to learn how to fly, and then the baseball hits him on the head.
That's right. And then
another message from his son.
Yes.
Another trigger.
That's so good, hey.
Yeah.
And then his shadow's then moving. And now he's chasing his shadow. His shadow's telling him what to do, which is a sign of his old self. Because when he was younger, he was chasing his shadow. That's what happened with the whole falling down and crying in Wendy.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to connect to his shadow again, and his shadow wouldn't connect with him again.
Yeah.
And then he finds the little hidden house.
Yes, the house underneath.
And so he goes into the house, and then he sees somehow Tinkerbell knew who's going to be there.
Yeah, so she's there.
She's there. She's all dressed up in nice clothes. And
yeah.
It's a welcome home party thing, you know.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he finds a kiss and he remembers everything. The kiss is the thing that he gave to Wendy, which is like a little thumb thingy that you put for when you're sewing.
Yeah. What do I call it? A thimble, or I don't know.
Thimble, yeah.
Something like that.
Yes.
I don't know if it's exactly that, but
sounds right to me.
Sounds familiar.
And that's when it triggers him to remember, oh yeah, no, but that chair was there, and this was Wendy's house, and this and this, and
so he's starting to reconnect his memories of his childhood,
right? Yep. Which is another thing that you got to do, right? Memories is part of your even if it's injured in your soul, it's still part of inside your soul, stored in your soul.
That's so crazy. I just thought of it now, like, because in the beginning part, the first message that he got was, "You're missing it. You're going to get to a point where the children won't want to like be with you."
Yeah.
Then the second thing was like Wendy's like, "You don't remember your childhood?" Like it just, I feel like the film is doing it in that order of like his journey back to his real self, which was set up in the beginning of the film. So he's I don't know, I'm just thinking it.
I love it. I love that idea of like, it's like you've lost your memories because you're not in touch with your soul to remember your memories. And then once you're starting to get in touch with your soul, you're remembering your memories again. Yeah,
well, once you like fix the desire to change, because that's what his wife was trying to say. You got, you know, this, you need, if you want to like fix this with your children and fix your family, you've got to desire to change, see the error.
Yeah.
So he had to go through that phase first, desiring to change, to then the memories coming to him. Anyway, I'm just like noticing it right now as we're talking.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Because through memories, you are then allowed to find your grief in some
Well,
ways.
you start to connect to your feelings
Yes.
through the memories.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay, so then
starting to remember his childhood in this area, this little home.
yep. And then finally he remembers when he was a baby,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And how his mother wanted him to become like a lawyer or something in some way, which is ironic because he does become a lawyer. But like she was like, I'm going to give him the best schools and the best this, and he's going to be interning in the highest courts and just like his father and da-da-da-da-da.
So the mama's already projecting onto the child what she wants him to be.
Yep.
Yep.
And not letting
is what
him be
parents
what
do.
he wants to be.
Yep.
Or to discover what he wants to do, you know?
Which is a part of this conditioning of what gets us away from our true selves.
Which is almost every parent that I know of.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly not in some that are encouraging, but most that I know.
Majority, let's just say the majority of the world is like that.
And so he ran away. And that's when Tinkerbell took him.
Yep.
Right? And he was only a baby in a pram, just to reference people who don't know the thing.
Yeah.
And then he goes, but even when I was over there, I missed my family. So I wanted to come see my mum. But when he came back, the door was closed. The windows were closed. And he felt unwelcomed. His mum forgot about him. Deep sadness there.
Yep. Yeah.
Mum didn't care about me anymore. She moved on. She had another baby. She, you know, was happy again. So deep sadness that he wanted to forget. Right? So then he looked for another window that was open. That's when it was Wendy's window. And then he got to have fun with Wendy almost becoming his surrogate mother. Right? But Wendy actually fell in love with him. But, you know, there's a bit weird stuff there. It's like Freud a little bit. But,
yeah.
And then, so he would take her back and forth so they could go play and whatever, you know? But the point is that he from his sadness, he wanted a mum. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yep.
And then, do you know what I mean?
Interesting. Yep.
And that's
what Tinker says.
You know, yes.
So much pain.
That's right. Say it.
You say it because I don't remember it. Did she just say like there's so much pain?
No wonder you don't want to remember because you got so much pain and sadness. You know?
Such a big truth there, right?
Such a big truth. No wonder you don't want to remember.
Yeah, that's such a big like truth of God. Like, as I've been learning that a lot of the times we choose not to remember our childhood or our life because it's too painful. And God wants us to remember and connect to those feelings.
Yeah. So that you can heal and then move forward and not have those feelings anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then he then goes, I then remember why I wanted to like grow up. I wanted to grow up because I wanted to become a father. Right? And so I guess for him it's like this 360 of like I'm ready to grow up now. I'm ready for the next chapter. And so he marries Maura, the great-granddaughter. I think, is it granddaughter or great-granddaughter? Oh, I think it's granddaughter of
the granddaughter.
Wendy's. Yeah, Wendy's granddaughter.
Oh, okay. I thought it was her daughter.
No, it's her granddaughter.
Okay. Fair enough.
And so she goes, don't give her a kiss. She's thinking that something. And he goes, no, I'm going to give her a real kiss. So he's like, I'm going to grow up and get romantically involved so that I can have children. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then he becomes a father. And that's when he remembers that's his happy thought. The gift of being a father.
Yeah, because he needed to have a happy thought to remember how to fly again. Yep.
And that's the moment where he realizes he's up in the air.
Yep.
You know? He drops the teddy.
It's like, I found it.
Oh no, I lost it. Just remember it, just keep it. And then he then looks at the camera, breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
What a
there
moment.
he is, Peter Pan again.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's found himself in a way, right?
Yeah.
But he's found not just little Peter, like the Peter Pan of Neverland, but the Peter Pan after. The real, like the more real-ish him, which is the adult him that stayed a child kind of thing.
Mm.
So anyway, so that's
Yep.
I think
So you mean like it's still him as an adult, but reconnecting with those childlike qualities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
But it's interesting that to get to that point, the biggest thing that he needed in terms of rediscovering his real emotional self was one, a desire to change, a desire to remember his childhood, and a desire to acknowledge at least the pain, even if he's not feeling it at that point properly or processing it, but to make an acknowledgement of the pain, from his childhood, which is first steps.
Baby steps.
Up here, intellectual process,
Yeah.
first. Yeah.
And it's also very hard for a movie to be able to do the full process of something.
When they don't know it.
Well, not only just to know it, but like how to show it.
How to show it. Yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
But to show it, you got to know it as well.
Yeah.
You got to know
totally. And then
what the full breakdown
how
is.
to do it in a way that still doesn't take 10 hours.
Yeah.
You still got to do it in such a
short time frame.
time frame.
Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah, so I guess, did you have anything else to add to that to finish
then
up?
we had here where you wanted to talk about breaking down the facade.
Yeah, so
So now, because that's it. That's Peter now is in his childlike state, and he found it by doing
through
those three things, like
exactly.
remembering and having desire, remembering, grieving, and
well, at least acknowledging
seeing
the
the
truth
truth.
of the pain
Yeah.
to see the truth of the pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So now that we've explored both the adult facade and the qualities of the real self, we want to talk about how perhaps Peter broke down his adult facade to achieve his external goal of saving his children and fix his marriage. So we're only these are all hypotheticals because we're trying to find moments in the film that would represent the breaking down of the adult facade according to God's truth or according to what we've learned through divine truth teachings. It's a very tricky thing to do because, like you say, in a film, they don't have a lot of time. They probably don't even know this process either. But even if they did, how to do this in a succinct way, that is obvious. This is all sort of subtext. Some of it's subtext that we've picked up on. Some of it's stuff that we kind of connected to perhaps be related to some of these steps of breaking down the adult facade. But we're going to just as a hypothetical, see if we can explore it, So basically, to break down the adult facade according to divine truth, you've got to want to remove the facade or facades because we have multiple facades. You got to remove the hurt self. So educate the hurt self, develop, feel, and experience the real self's qualities, attributes, and personality. Number 3, develop the real self, which is a choice. You got to want to choose to develop your real self, and then develop a desire in the real self to receive God's love and truth. Develop a desire in the real self to be loving and truthful with others. So that's according to divine truth of breaking down this adult facade. So in terms of, according to divine truth, you start at an intellectual place with breaking down the adult facade. So number 1 is begin in a place of denial. Neither intellectually or emotionally aware of the facade and the sin it creates. Sin equals unloving thoughts, words, and actions driven by denial of unloving emotions. So step 1 to breaking down the facade is that everyone will usually begin in a place of denial. So we've written here, Peter is actually in complete denial in the beginning, not aware about his facade and that he's a workaholic or his workaholic behaviors that is causing him and his family pain. He's in complete denial of it.
Yeah.
So you can say he is starting out in a place of denial.
Complete denial.
In terms of this facade. Step number 2 is to develop an intellectual awareness that the unloving behavior, which is the sin, exists and is real. An intellectual awareness that what I'm doing is wrong and needs to be changed.
And we said here that Peter is somewhat in that realization, but not really in a full realization because he's still in resistance. And we're talking about the airplane scene there.
Yeah.
right? So he knows that he broke a promise and it wasn't right and da da da, but he's really resistant to go apologize to his son. He's just, like, oh, I could just go to 6 games next year. Like, like he knows he's done something wrong, but he's just like, oh,
He's
I'll
just
just
trying to cover
cover it
over
up.
it and
Yeah,
not take responsibility. He's just trying to like skip to, I'll make it up to you. Yeah. So the intellectual awareness is still not fully realized there,
exactly.
For sure. Then number 3 is develop an intellectual awareness of why it is wrong and find out what you believe God's truth to be on the matter. So this is where you discover what you're doing is wrong and why it's wrong according to God's truth.
Yeah.
And it's just all up here at the moment. You might be able to like talk to people, learn information and go, oh, okay, I can see intellectually now why this is a problem for me, why this part of my facade is an issue and causing problems. It's not yet an emotional thing in the soul. It's all up here in the head still.
Yeah.
It's like attending a divine truth seminar and learning a bunch of information for the first time and going, whoa.
What is that?
You know what I mean? Like you're hearing it just on an intellectual level.
Yeah. And you think you know it.
It's like a university,
Yeah.
like you're just learning at the moment in your head. So now we could maybe speculate and argue that he kind of is made aware of why it's wrong by his wife. So it's kind of giving him an intellectual
light bulb,
and that's when his wife says, you're missing it, and it's like, this is why it's a problem, Peter, because you are caught up in this world and you're not actually there or present for your children. So she kind of and God is always trying to bring us events and situations to help us realize what we're doing is wrong and why it's wrong. So maybe that's his moment there of becoming awareness, right? Becoming aware of why it's wrong. Then we have the next step in breaking down the adult facade on an intellectual level is develop an intellectual awareness that the unloving behavior, sin, has a cause within ourselves. So I've written here, Peter fails to realize what the cause is for his facade, the workaholism. This is not captured in the film, but there are insights as to why he ended up there, right? So we've got the scene with his mother. He becomes a person his mother wanted him to be.
So even though she projected that onto him as a newborn, basically.
Yeah, as a newborn.
Somewhere in his soul, it's got stored to the point where even when he couldn't remember any of his mother's stuff, he still became the person his mother wanted him to be.
Isn't that's mad? Like,
that's pretty cool. That's like in terms, not cool as in good, but like cool as in
how that was written in the story.
Instinctively like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then some more of our insights. Here is a boy who remained childlike, and the world didn't want this. Likely he was shunned, so he changed to fit in, chasing the ladder of success to build up his worth again. That's kind of a repeat of what we said before, wasn't it? Yeah, we already mentioned that. But I guess
it's our way of thinking, like perhaps this is why he's done, like he's become who he's become,
Yeah.
Later in life.
So we're not sure if he really did develop that intellectual awareness that the unloving behavior sin has a cause within himself. It's possible in the house that perhaps he became aware at some kind of moment when he's in the house with Tinkerbell, remembering his childhood and the pain.
Oh, in the Wendy house?
Yeah.
The little,
it's possible that moment, could be that him coming into this intellectual awareness.
Well, that's definitely an intellectual awareness of his emotional self for sure.
Yeah. So it's potentially that moment in the film, because the next one is also develop an intellectual awareness that an emotion within myself causes me to take this sinful action. So I wrote here, which is the house scene again. He comes to remember his childhood and some of the pain he went through in the scene with Tinkerbell and Wendy's house in Neverland.
Yeah, that's the emotional
Yeah.
awareness.
So I
right
guess
there.
those two kind of like sort of intertwine there where, yeah, the intellectual awareness that the unloving behavior has a cause within ourselves and that it causes me to take a sinful action. I think like
Well, that's all in the one scene, so they've kind of
one
merged it
scene.
really well, I think.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and then the next step in breaking down the adult facade on an intellectual like level is develop an intellectual awareness that the emotion exists within myself and not anyone else. So him acknowledging his pain that he's avoided, it's in contrast to the beginning, which is that everyone else is a problem except for him. So his wife nagging, his annoying children, etc. So we're still talking about the moment in the house in Neverland, Wendy's house in Neverland, that just the intellectual acknowledgement of his pain. Maybe it's somewhat an emotional acknowledgement as well, which
Well, I
is
think
like
that was, it's also powerful because his adult facade was the part where he thought he was not the problem.
yes,
But this scene captured 3 things where he realizes, wait, the problem lays within myself.
yeah, and it
You know?
stems deep
So it
into my
starts
childhood.
from he has the I remember moment in there. I have then the emotional remembering
Yeah,
of my mother and all that. And then I have the awareness of realizing that like the issue lies within me.
yeah,
It was always there.
because it stems, like I said, deep from in my childhood.
That's right.
With my mum and
Exactly.
things like that. And then we have second last step, develop an intellectual willingness to identify the cause within ourselves of the unloving behavior. So I wrote, he developed a willingness to find out the cause to his problem after he saw the damage to his son during the baseball game with Hook.
Great.
He lost his fatherhood,
Yep,
for
we
example.
said that.
We already said all of that. That it's not just about having a child, but it is to be present and to see them.
That's right.
And this motivated him on the mission to remembering how to fly,
That's right.
ultimately reconnecting him with his true self. And then develop a willpower to find the emotional cause of my unloving behavior. To be honest, I guess he did, like I say, start out in a place of willpower.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really to discover the emotional cause.
No.
Like it was more like, I'm going to develop willpower to get back to who I am.
Yeah.
That I'm using my willpower here. Like, let's do this.
He was like using the willpower to just get through all this stuff to finally just get his kids. He didn't care about
he didn't care
himself
about this like
or what he's gonna
internal growth at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah. So nothing at all. So there were the steps according to Divine Truth on breaking down the adult facade. And just to, I guess, finish up on this point, I wrote that the destruction of Peter's facade must be achieved to achieve his goal of saving his children and returning as a different man. So Peter has to, in order to save and free his children, destroy his own facade. Yep. And his external goal can only be achieved once he achieves his internal goal to save his children. He must reconnect with himself first and destroy his facade.
That's right.
And I love the end scene with the war between Hook and Peter.
Yeah.
Because I saw it as not a war of the pirate himself, but a war for Peter to destroy his own facade.
Yeah, I like
to break it down. Like for me, that's where my imagination went. Like I'm like, oh, he's not just fighting the pirate, like he's fighting himself.
Yeah.
To get rid of this thing and
detach
to
from that.
Detach from it and get back to his self, you know? And that's essentially not that we have to fight ourselves to return to our true selves in real life. This is all hypotheticals. So it's not that we have to fight ourselves, but we do need to go through a process of breaking down our adult facade to return to who we truly are, that God created us to be.
Yeah.
And I must say though, like obviously we're comparing like real absolute truths of breaking down the facade to a fictional film.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that the process in real life It's, you know, it's going to be full on
Yeah.
compared to what the movie like
Shows.
showed. So I don't want
Yeah.
people
Disclaimer.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think, oh, like this is the process.
All I have to do is remember like my past and
like, you
I would
know,
heal.
there's
Like,
a big process, and if people want to go more in depth into what that process is on how to break down their adult facade, I just recommend to go and listen to Divine Truth teachings, hear it from the teachers of Divine Truth, not us,
who have
who
practiced
have
what they
done
preached.
it and who know what they're talking about and they know the process, and to go and learn it from them. We're just talking from our like
just seeing little light bulbs in a movie.
exactly. We're just like, you know, trying to look at where some of God's truth might be found and shared through film, you know, and how we can see that and relate to it, I suppose. So the return home.
Yes.
Do you want to go into that?
Yes, just quickly. So then he finally now knows who he is. So he started in the ordinary world where he didn't know who he was. He was in his adult facade. Well,
let's just say he gets his children back. As we mentioned, he finishes. Hook ends up passing because of his own like unloving behaviors that he didn't change.
Yep.
Peter now has his children. He says goodbye to the Lost Boys because he's going to go back home, even though he's going to return as this new person. Well, return as himself now, but still as an adult. Yep.
So he's now returned, but with his youthful nature inside.
Yes.
Right? And so he's fallen asleep because he's run out of pinky dust and whatever. And so like he doesn't, didn't have enough to get home. But he also like then jumps over fences and does a flip, goes and plays inside with the dog. And then the phone rings and he's looking for it somewhere and he's buried and he finds it, answers it. He's like, okay, well, I love to keep chatting, but like I got to climb a pipe, you know? He's like, why? Don't you just, he's like, because I ran out of fairy dust. Like, why?
What do you think?
You know? And so he flies, climbs up fearless.
Yeah.
This is showing the complete opposite to who he was at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's fearless. He's climbing up stories on a pipe and jumps onto the window thingy and he's knocking on the door and they open the door and then he goes, what did I tell you about keeping this door, open? And then he's like,
he's pretending to say that to his son,
like
Jack.
That old dad.
Dad, yeah.
And then Jack thinks he's in trouble and then he's like, oh no. And then he's like, always leave it open, just show that he's changed.
Yeah.
And then everyone's seeing
different attitude now.
Completely different attitude, completely different person.
Yeah.
Even thingy goes, where have you been?
Yeah.
Mora says.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's beautiful. And then he has returned as the playful nature soul that he truly is, open to his children and seeing their value. He's closer to his truer self. Also, and him being closer to his truer self opens him up to reconnecting to his partner, showing how finding your childhood self, your nature, your playfulness, can also help reopen you to your loved ones and your soulmate. So right.
Oh, that's amazing. Beautiful.
Not necessarily that she's his soulmate, because like he's like at least 3 generations older than her. Technically,
right. Okay.
Because he's as old as Wendy.
Yeah. Really. Gotcha.
It's just that he lost it because he kept on going back to Neverland.
He didn't want to grow up. Yeah.
But the point is the same. You know?
Cool.
And then
he gets a phone call while he's reconnecting with his wife, and
he's like, "Oh, I've got to take this," and then everyone thinks he's gone back to He's just
all
yo-yoing.
Yeah. And then he just throws it out the window.
He goes, Brad, have you ever felt the wind, like as you're like flying or whatever?
Yeah.
Feel this, and he's like,
just throws
it
the
out the
phone.
window.
Yeah.
And then
not that like your true nature is irresponsible, like, you know what I mean? But I guess it's symbolizing that this other layer of like he's putting his family first above his work now.
But also that his work was toxic.
Yes, his work was
toxic.
toxic.
And he needs to let it go.
Exactly.
And he literally
he needs to create a new path of being responsible, but in a way that doesn't overtake his life.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then they end with everyone on the balcony, and then they say, is that the end of our adventures? And he goes, no, no, to live would be an awfully big adventure.
Yeah. Such a beautiful point to the movie that life is about living, exploring, experiencing, and being present. And that is what it means to live, to be present and to have this exploring nature that God gave us, you know?
Yeah, but also it's a juxtaposition of how pessimistic he is at the beginning to how
Yes.
optimistic optimistic of the world, you know?
Yeah,
Like
totally. The complete 360.
360.
Yeah,
And I
he's
love that.
returned to his the same world, a changed man is what you always say.
Yeah.
With the 360.
You take day by day instead of
Yeah.
thinking, oh, in 5 years I might be dead. Like,
Yeah.
that's the worst thing to think of. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And I love the fact that there's a juxtaposition of both, because there's a truth in Hook saying that death is an adventure, and there's a truth to saying to live is an adventure.
Yeah.
Because in God's truth, there is an adventure in life and after death. You know? Basically sharing to face fears and to become fearless, just as a child lives their life fearlessly until we condition them to fear things. You know? Like, there is a world after death, and there is a life during life. Like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean?
There is life after death.
And we don't think of it like that.
Yeah.
Even though, like, even religious people like fear death.
Yeah.
And they
Even
know
though they believe in the afterlife.
that there's an afterlife.
Yeah, I think it's because of this damning belief that once you pass on, you are either going to hell or to heaven.
Yeah, but even
There's
if it's
no
not that
belief
belief,
that you can't actually grow and keep living and experiencing.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I think it's also just the deep addiction. Like, I think for me,
Mm.
it's the deep addiction of like letting a loved one go.
Yeah, addictions to family, our addictions to our people in our lives. Yeah, this feeling of we're going to have such a great loss just because we die, you know?
Yeah.
And also death right now in the world is very painful. There's a lot of pain associated with dying and death, a lot of sadness and grief associated with it. But I've heard Jesus say that death wasn't intended in that way.
No.
Death was meant to be a celebration of entering into a new phase of your life as a soul. And it's supposed to be a joyous celebratory moment where you shed your physical body and you go into like the spirit world. I don't know why that's like upset. I think the truth is hitting me, like, you know, in the sense of like, yeah, it's supposed to be a celebration of your new journey beyond, you know, into the afterlife, into your next phase of learning that God wants to take you through. And, you know, I think to imagine that, like, you know, the beauty of that and the joy of that, of achieving that one day in the world, you know, I think that's what's touching my heart right now, of like, we don't have that right now, but the potential of what it could be for us, you know, that death would be something beautiful, you know, that's something that we celebrate, you know, and that it's not
so
even
far away from that.
It's so am I, just saying, like, but imagine like when someone you love passes and they leave their body, but you still see them. You see them rise up and you still have that connection, or you still talk, you can see them, you still talk to them. So it's not an ending for you because you're still seeing that person in their spirit form. But yeah, so we'll end on your, I think, Steven Spielberg's interview. But I just want to mention some of the key life lessons for me in this film was that remembering our childhood and the importance of remembering our childhood and all of the painful experiences and memories, and the importance of feeling emotions again, because that is what can ultimately lead us to more happiness when we feel and release those painful emotions. The importance of removing our facade, and of course the importance of being our real self in this world. So that were just some of the key key takeaways for me in this film.
When I do key takeaways, I do key favorite moments.
Yes, do favorite moments.
My key favorite moment was to live would be an awfully great adventure. I'm a bit emotional from before.
I know. That's okay. You can take your time, babe. Just let it out. We'll cut and bring you back in.
Okay. Ironically, the second favorite point is the one that we were just talking that made me emotional, which is there's life and there's life after death.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it all now, but we said it before. And then the last favorite moment for me is, of course, oh, there you are, Peter. The power of children to see and seek truth.
Yeah, cool. And for me, I think
even when there's doubt around them.
Yeah, true.
Everyone doubted him.
Yeah.
And that kid still was like, I'm going to try anyway. I'm going to have a look.
I'm going to have a look, see if I can
I'm
find
going to
him.
experiment.
Yeah.
What if I do this to his face and that to his face and this to his face?
The power of experimentation. Kids love to experiment. They get creative. Yeah.
And I thought that was awesome because I always wanted people to see me. But
yeah,
I think
this is a big part of the true nature of children in that moment.
Yeah.
Curious, inquisitive, questioning, probing, searching.
He was
and
so
inquiring.
probing him.
He was probing physically. He was like, squish, squish, squish.
What if I really see your eyeball? Like,
yeah, the eye is the window to the soul. So
right.
yeah, yeah, it would have been cool if they had to use that moment. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Literal. Literally seeing his soul.
I see you.
Yeah, exactly. If I had to choose a favorite moment in the film, it would be "You're doing it, Peter. What? You're using your imagination."
We quote that all the time to each other. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You're doing it. Or sometimes I'll say, "Oh, you become a pirate, babe."
I'm being too pessimistic or
yeah,
like just bitter or something.
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Very piratey.
It's become a part of our life. This film.
Yes. But it was our life even before we watched it together.
Yeah.
We knew about it. You know,
Yeah.
like, okay.
So let's end on your little interview with Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, it was some kind of. So basically, I believe this is from Wikipedia, from an interview that was from a magazine that was in a like film magazine at the time. It was a 2-pager that
Sure.
a 3-page spread thing of Steven Spielberg's new movie Hook.
Okay,
and so they talked to him about his thing,
and it's
there was a
interesting.
summary of it on Wikipedia, which was easier to do. But
Yeah, and just before you read it, it's interesting that to this day, this is probably one of the most beautiful films that represents a lot of God's truth. Not all, but a lot.
Yeah.
That Steven Spielberg made, and yet it's the film that he least likes out of all of his films.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting.
I think because it hit home a lot to him.
Yeah.
And I think also because
of his facade, his need for perfectionism. The film wasn't as perfect as he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
In terms of his vision and being executed and stuff like that. Yeah.
Which is the pirate side of him anyway.
Yeah.
And so basically he goes, this is what it says. Spielberg found close personal connection to the Peter Pan story from his own childhood. The troubled relationship between Peter and Jack is this sequel echoed Spielberg's relationship with his own father. Previous Spielberg films that explored a dysfunctional father-son relationship also included E.T., Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And then in this one, Peter's quest for success is paralleled to Spielberg's starting out as a film director and transforming into a Hollywood business magnate. This is a quote. I think a lot of people today are losing their imagination because they are work driven. They are so self-involved with work and success and arriving to the next plateau that children and family almost become incidental. I have even experienced it myself when I have been on a very tough shoot, and I've not seen my kids except on weekends. They ask for my time and I can't give it to them because I'm working. End quote. After Peter at the begin, Like Peter at the beginning of the film, Spielberg has a fear of flying. He feels that Peter's enduring quality is the storyline is to simply fly. That's his enduring quality that he needs to get to. You know, I think as you can see, Spielberg saying, like, I put my kids second. I put my acting first. I read some of that article because I found it.
Oh yeah.
So I'll put the description down the bottom so people can see it. Link to they can read the whole actual article. It's very interesting because some of it he actually says like I saw myself as Peter Pan my whole life because my mum read it to me when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So growing up, I've always saw myself as Peter Pan. I am Peter Pan.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I've always used my imagination. Right? And he goes, don't tell anyone, but like if they ask me how I do my directing, like I still don't know. And if I ever find out logically how I do it, I think I'm going to lose it. You know?
It's all instinctual.
It's all instinctual.
Yeah.
And so he just doesn't want to get heady of how he does it.
Yeah.
Just does it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Which is an issue for me.
Yeah,
you know? I don't have that instinct because of my own issues of perfectionism and.
Well, yeah, as well, you haven't had a lot of encouragement to develop will and desire, so you have struggled knowing how to articulate what you want.
Yeah.
And how you want it.
Yeah.
Because you haven't developed a strong will or desire because your dad and your family suppressed that.
Yeah.
From you making your own choices and decisions, you know?
Yeah. That's a very good point. I didn't really see it for myself through why I can't do what he does. But like not even what he does, but like in terms of being able to be instinctual in my art, you know?
Yeah. Because you were instinctual in your childhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You love those aspects of yourself, the playful, you know, stuff. But when it comes to like just going with the flow and not being in your head about things, you're very much stuck in your head.
Yeah. But in that thing that he was talking about, he said, I always saw myself as Peter Pan. Even up until I had a child, just before I had a child, I saw myself as Peter Pan.
Yep.
And then he said, and then I became a father. And there was a moment I felt like I wasn't allowed to be Peter Pan anymore.
Oh, wow. The pirate kicked in. Yeah.
Right? He said, in some way, I had resentment to my child for taking that away from me.
Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
He actually wrote that in the thing. He said, like, I had this thing of like, you made me lose my Peter Pan-ness, like kind of thing.
And maybe that's why Peter Pan had this friction between him and his children as well.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. You know? But isn't it fascinating? Yeah, he using his gift of being a father in this one to almost reconcile with that blame that he had of like he blamed his child for not being Peter Pan. Yet it is the birth of his child that made him become Peter Pan. Because he even said in the interview, he said, sorry, I got to finish this because this is so good. He said, as much as I was upset that they made me lose my Peter Pan-ness, as they were growing up, they were forcing me back into being Peter Pan. Yeah, because they kept on pulling me back into be playful, be this, be that, be this. And so it was forcing me to remember.
Oh my gosh.
You know? And so
freaking gold.
You can see it through the movie now.
Yeah, you can see that for sure.
You know?
Yeah.
And so why he doesn't love this masterpiece is beyond me. Like,
yeah, it's beyond us.
It's beyond a cult classic. Like
it's you know, yeah, sure, it doesn't depict God's truth completely.
No.
But it's so rich with so many like truths about the facade and the real self and
finding yourself again
and
being playful,
seeing where you lost it from your childhood and this deeper grief and sadness you have from that and the conditioning, and it's just full of like absolute beauties that we've been inspired from.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think like you can see now, like it was a battle inside himself, that
He
film.
brought it out.
Um,
It's perfect that he attracted that law of attraction to make that film.
yeah, well,
Because he didn't actually write it.
I was listening to the writer,
Yeah.
one of the many, but he
Yeah.
started it. He
Yeah.
started with the idea of Peter not being,
Mm.
because at that time, everyone was in competition making a Peter Pan movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like dozens and dozens of people were writing different versions, right?
Yeah.
But everyone was trying to keep it loyal to James Barry's like version and make it Peter Pan's on his adventure.
Yeah.
You know? And then one writer's son, actually, they used to play this what if game as a family. And then one day they said, what if Peter Pan grew up in the game?
Yep.
And then he realized, like, what if Peter Pan grew up?
And that's
Like,
how he was inspired.
And that's how he was inspired to start
film.
this writing of this. And then
Wow.
they had to get heaps of writers in because this was a hard one to get to a standard that Spielberg was happy with, because like he's got his own ideas that he wants to implement into the story and the script.
Yeah.
So
anyway, but if Steven Spielberg is listening, you should definitely take the time to watch your film again. Like you said, if you watch it again,
maybe
now,
watch it with some children.
You might
so you can
see the
reignite
beauty in it again. And that the film has just got so many beautiful
but also watch
lessons
it
in
with
it.
children.
Yeah.
You know, like James Barry, he had adults and they watched it and there was shit.
Yep.
And then he put kids in it.
Yeah.
And then he ignited the adults to realize the magic of the thing. Spielberg needs to do that with his own work.
Yeah.
He needs to get kids in there and then see what their reaction is, and he's realizing the magic of what he created.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, that's amazing.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, babe. Love you, bub. Food.
Food time. Okay. Oh my gosh. Thank you for tuning in to God's Whispers in Film podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you. If you'd like to support the podcast and help us to keep creating meaningful content, visit our Patreon page. Your support makes a big difference and will help us to continue to bring you more episodes. Until then, may God's Whispers continue to inspire you in your life.